here?
Thank you, Your Worship. It appears everyone's here. I have the mayor. I see the deputy mayor is here. Councillor Harris, I see. Councillor Sullivan, are you here? Yes, you are. Okay, see you. Councillor Norton, I see there in the corner. Councillor Killen, I can see. Councillor Lowe is there. Councillor Hickey, I see. Councillor Ogden, are you on? Yep, there
Yes.
you are. And Councillor Rodwan. Councillor Rodwan?
Yeah, she's
I'm
here.
Yeah.
Okay, and Councillor Stewart, that's the full council.
All right. So I'll call the meeting to order, and we'll start with a land acknowledgement, and I'll send that over to Councillor Sullivan, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. The land on which the city of St. John, or Menequest, is situated is...
Oh, Councillor, your microphones just went off. Thank you. That's better.
Okay, I will start over. The land on which the city of St. John, or Menequest, is situated is the traditional territory of the Wolastoqey. The Wolastoqey, along with their indigenous neighbors, the Mi'kmaq and the Pescatomakati, signed peace and friendship treaties with the British Crown in the 1700s that protected their rights to lands and resources. Let us pause and reflect.
Okay, next item, City Clerk.
Next, we have the national anthem.
Thank you. Okay, City Clerk, next item.
Thank you, Your Worship. Next on the agenda is item 2.1, approval of September 18th minutes.
September 18th minutes. Councillor Sullivan and Councillor Stewart on the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Next item, City Clerk.
Next is the approval of the agenda. There are 3 items from Committee of the Whole. First one would be 17.1, a resolution with respect to rapid housing agreement. 17.2, a recommendation with respect to a legal retainer. And 17.3, resolution on a code of conduct matter.
Okay, I'll need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Stewart, and who else we got? Councillor Hickey on the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion opposed. Councillor Harris. Noted. Next item, City Clerk.
Next is disclosures of conflict of interest, if we have any.
Councillor Killen.
It must be 17.3, if I'm not mistaken.
17.3. Excellent. Thank you. Next item, City Clerk.
Next is the consent agenda.
Consent agenda.
Your worship, sorry, I was going to declare conflict of interest.
Oh, sorry.
for-
I didn't see your light. Go ahead.
No worries. I'm going to declare conflict of interest for item 9.2.
Thank you. Okay, so I have that noted as well. Deputy, over to you for the consent agenda.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would move 5.1 through to 5.4, please.
I'll take a seconder on that. Councillor Hickey on the question. All in favor? Opposed? Oh, Councillor Redwine, you had a question on one of the items?
No, Mayor, I just wanted to thank staff because they did this really quickly. 5.2, the update for Pro Kids. I appreciate
Right.
time on that, so thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so that motion is carried. Next item, City Clerk.
Next, we have members' comments, item number 6.
There's comments, item number 6. Councillor Harris, over to you. Oh, so, okay, better. Thank you. Councillor Sullivan, over to you.
Thank you, Worship. And actually, thank you for asking me to do the land acknowledgement this evening. I'm humbled following on Truth and Reconciliation weekend. And I know many of council were at the walk on Saturday, but I really want to share my respect for one of our staffers who keeps us organized on so many things. That's Katira, who works in your office there, Mayor Reardon. I didn't realize what a leadership role she also had in helping organize events on the weekend. A real gem of a staff that we have, and just wanted to thank her for that work, and councillors for showing up and participating. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hickey, over to you.
Thanks, Your Worship. Really echoing the same thing. The healing walk that was very much led by the Indigenous community was really nice to be a part of. It was an opportunity to offer some pretty significant reflection, and I think I was really impressed to see the community come together as they did in honoring that day. So I thought it was very powerful and a very good moment to be a part of. Also in attendance at the L'Arche dinner last week. Just wanted to give them a quick shout out for the great work they do with our with the disabled community in St. John, and kudos to them for the effort they have and the ambition they have in working as a nonprofit in the city. I also want to give a quick shout out. I'm a board member of Read St. John. Read St. John does literacy training for folks in the city of all ages. In St. John, with some of the highest illiteracy rates, not only in the province, but in the country. It's really important. I think it's really important work, and they do their job out of the Social Enterprise Hub and are always looking for new tutors, as well as always welcoming new learners as well. So if there's anyone, I know we've got a bigger audience today, so I'll offer that pitch to them as well. Thanks very much, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Radwan, and then Councillor Ogden.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, so I mean, definitely the Truth and Reconciliation Healing Walk was wonderful, and there was a lot of people that attended, so that was nice. The L'Arche fundraiser was wonderful too. I also got to go to the Threshold House was holding their first annual softball tournament this last weekend, and for those of you that don't know about Threshold House for the public, they host a 12-step recovery program that I'm a big fan of. We've seen so many people, so many success stories come out of this for recovery, and they did a great job. There's a lot of Christian organizations that get a lot of people together to do this, and I was just really happy to go because I mean there's just so many great stories that you hear come out of that 12-step recovery program. I do want to make mention that Rockmore Nursing Home is having their fundraiser coming up, and that's October the 14th at 5 o'clock, and it's at one of our buildings, the Trade and Convention Center. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ogden.
Yeah, I just want to thank Marigolds and Mural volunteers. We've been going a long time, but in the past 2.5 weeks, we painted 4 houses, and for mostly seniors. But we had over 40 people, and almost all of them are all brand new volunteers over the years. So I just wanted to thank them that we painted 4 houses, and I would encourage everybody to let's paint all the nice homes in St. John, all our unpainted houses and everything, if we could do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Killen, over to you.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to thank the folks who came out on September 20th to counter protest a pretty significant Canadian-wide event that occurred in St. John. Was one of the most significant and tragic things to witness in my life, and I've been on, various news outlets about this. There's 3 more events that are coming, rallies, and we're planning some community barbecues and events to kind of try to de-escalate the situation and have a little bit of a conversation around some of the issues we're facing as a community. I feel important to speak out about this. I know it's considered political, but our thoughts are we want to try to meet people in the middle and actually have a conversation about why we have such big differences when it comes to some of the things that we're talking about here. So please stay tuned for more details on that. There's lots of folks in the community that are organizing right now to make sure that the voices of everyone are heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Councillor Ogden, you have your light on still. Okay, City Clerk, over to you for the next item.
Thank you, Your Worship. It's now a little after 6:30, so we'll need to move over to our public hearings that are scheduled. So the first public hearing that's scheduled is item 9.1, and this is to repeal a previous Section 59 condition at 1260 Fairville Boulevard.
Okay, so I'm passing this over to our Acting Commissioner of Growth, Amy Poffenroff. So over to you, please.
Thank you. Good evening, Your Worship and members of Council. Before you this evening for a public hearing is an application for a Section 59 amendment application that was submitted by Joel Armstrong for the property located at 1260 Fairville Boulevard. The application is seeking to rescind existing Section 59 conditions to enable the property to be used for a self-storage facility. The application has been evaluated by staff and the Planning Advisory Committee, and included in your package is the recommendation to rescind the existing Section 59 conditions. I'll now turn it over to Jennifer Kushner, the Manager of Community Planning, for the staff presentation.
Okay, Jennifer, over to you.
Can I get confirmation that this is showing up nice and clearly on everyone's screen? I see some
Not
headlines.
yet.
Not
Coming.
yet?
I can hear you and see you. Oh, here we go. It's there.
There we go. Excellent. So as mentioned, we have an application before you this evening for 1260 Fairville Boulevard, which is a Section 59 amendment. These are fairly common, as you've noticed over the past several months, amending existing Section 59s that were placed typically alongside a rezoning that occurred and tied that rezoning to a very specific proposal at the time. The application tonight is to amend the Section 39 conditions that restricted the use of the site to a specific plan that was proposed back in 1978. As mentioned, this is really common practice. It is something we are trying to move away from to a certain degree and allow uses that are permitted within the zone and to allow conditions to be established based on the standards in the zoning bylaw. So these conditions were associated with the site plan that was used in the 1978 rezoning of the parcel. The applicant is requesting that the existing conditions be rescinded, and this would allow them to move forward with their proposed development of a self-storage facility. So we do have kind of a basic looking proposed site plan before you. The application is for a standard self-storage facility with storage being accessed along the exterior of the building. A new parking area would be created along with a small office that would be used to organize the functions of the business. We'd also see new landscaping be placed along the frontage of the property, and which would greatly enhance it. This is currently a vacant property. It is located near the exit to get to the highway, and it is not an area that has a lot aesthetically going on with the property. So the landscaping will be a great improvement to the site. In addition, we'd see 2 of the 3 current accesses onto the property be closed, making it a lot safer for people to access and exit the site as it moves forward with new development. The development is located on Fairville Boulevard. It is approximately the last property on Fairville Boulevard, right across from the off-ramp for Highway 1. So you can see in the aerial, currently has no developed neighbors. It is adjacent to another kind of vacant property. There is residential located behind it, but is a substantial elevation difference between Fairville Boulevard and the properties on Manawaganish. In addition, there's also a fairly substantial area of vegetation that creates an additional green space buffer between the 2 sites. So while they are adjacent, functionally they're very, very much separated. The image shows just exactly how vacant the property is. It is basically a very large swath of graveled land. The image above shows the lot looking in from the main access at the southeast corner of the site. And from here you can also see the site elevation difference and the existing vegetation and green area that separates this site from the residential to the north. An additional image really shows the properties from the access to the property looking east, and you can see the ramp coming off of Highway 1. So in an area that doesn't really have anything particularly interesting happening from a business standpoint. It is within the regional retail center of the municipal plan, so the vast majority of Fairville Boulevard is within this plan area. The site itself also abuts a residential to the northwest through, but separated by the elevation difference. And of course, across the highway is a large area that is designated park. In regards to zoning, the surrounding area is very much zoned commercial, with this particular portion of Fairville Boulevard being zoned corridor commercial, which aligns with the municipal plan and allows self-storage facilities as of right use. Letters were sent to all property owners within 100 meters on August 31st, as well as a public notice of the public hearing posted on the same date on the city website. Staff and PAC are in alignment and recommend the rescinding of the former Section 59 conditions that were imposed on 1260 Fairville Boulevard.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. Okay, so I will now open the public hearing. And I will ask, I know we have some people registered, no, not for this one. I'll ask if there's anyone here who would like to speak against the application. I'll ask again if there's anyone here who would like to speak against the application. And I'll ask for the 3rd time, if there's anyone here who would like to speak against the application. I'll ask if there is anyone here in the audience who would like to speak in favor of the application.
Good evening, Your Worship and members of council. My name is Jacob Kilpatrick, representing the applicant on the application. If there are any questions from council, I'd be happy to answer on his behalf.
Mr. Kilpatrick, what's your, I'll ask you, what's your lead on this? It's like, are you the contractor that'll do the work?
We're civil engineering consultants. We've prepared some of the drawings and renderings to support the application to this point. When
What's
it
the
moves
name of the
forward.
company again? Sorry.
Engineering by Houghton.
Okay. All right. Okay. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Kilpatrick? On the team, any of my team? Okay. All right, well, thank you for coming in this evening. I guess we're good for questions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'll ask again if there's anyone here in the audience who would like to speak in favor of the application. And I'll ask for a third time if there's anyone here who would like to speak in favor of the application. Okay, hearing no one, I will now close the public hearing and I will ask my team if you have any questions for staff. Ms. Kirchner is on the screen here with us. If you have no questions for staff, then I will ask the clerk what motions are required. Over to you, City Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is a simple one. It's one motion to repeal previous section 59 conditions.
I'll take a mover and a seconder on that. Councillor Lowe. Councillor Sullivan on the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, next item, City Clerk.
Next is the second of our two public hearings. It's item 9.2 on your agenda. And for this item, it's a repeal of previous section 39-59 conditions, imposing new section 59 conditions for property at 1660 Manawaganish Road.
Okay, I'm passing this one as well over to our Acting Commissioner of Growth, Amy Poffenroth.
Thank you, Your Worship. This evening's second public hearing is for an application for a Section 59 amendment application that was submitted by Les Consultants de la Technopole, Inc. for the property located at 1660 Manawaganish Road. The application is seeking to amend the existing 59 conditions to enable the development of a ball hockey facility. The application has been evaluated by staff and the Planning Advisory Committee, and included in your package is recommendations of approval of the amended Section 59 conditions. And I'll now turn it over to Mark Reed, the Senior Planner, for the staff presentation for this file.
Mr. Reed, over to you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Amy. I'll just bring up the presentation here. Can everyone see that on the...
Yes, that's good.
This evening's second application is for 1660 Manawaganish Road, and it is also a Section 59 amendment. The applicant is seeking to remove the existing Section 59 conditions that limit the use of the property to a senior's home and daycare. They're proposing the construction of a ball hockey facility that has one indoor court and one outdoor court. And the inside of the building would also contain a lounge as well as changing and service areas for the facility. A rendering of it is shown on your screen, a rendering of the exterior of the proposed building. This is the site plan here showing two accesses from Manawaganish Road, a parking area to the east along the eastern boundary of the site adjacent to the cemetery, with the building located in the western portion of the site. The ice surface that would be closest to the existing dwelling, so the one on the west, would be in the building, and the external deck hockey surface would be on the eastern edge of the building next to the parking lot. Again, a floor plan showing the layout of the facility with the two deck hockey pads at the rear, and then the common area at the front. Site photography: the site is currently undeveloped. There's a circular driveway on the site from the previous use, which was constructed for the former CNIB building that was on the site, and there is some existing vegetation around the site that, if it is on the property, allows for its retention by the developer to provide some buffering for the development with adjacent residences. This is a view here from Clearview Row, looking south. Again, you can see some large trees in the area that do provide some buffering. The site and neighborhood, the air photo is shown here. It is just to the west of the existing cemetery and to the southeast of the residential development along Clearview Row and Coronation Avenue. Other non-residential uses in the area include the Unifor building on the south side of Manawaganish Road and the Pumpkin Patch as well, just further to the west along Manawaganish Road. Closer air photo. The future land use designation in the municipal plan is stable residential. That does support the use of this site for community facilities such as recreational facilities, and staff note that those are commonly found proximate to residential areas. For example, many of the city's arenas and ball fields are in proximity to residential areas, as are privately operated facilities such as the Thistle St. Andrews Curling Club. Staff note that the municipal plan policies with respect to neighborhood compatibility are met through the site design. The applicant is proposing that the parking areas be located away from the area residences, as is the external game pad. And the applicant has met the required 7.5 meter setback required by the bylaw. Given this, staff are of the opinion the proposal conforms to the policy direction established in our municipal plan. In terms of zoning, the site is currently zoned a neighborhood community facility. It was rezoned back in the 1990s to allow for a seniors home and daycare. On the past use of the site and the imposition of new conditions largely related to facility operation and site design. In terms of community engagement, on August 31st, 2023, letters were sent to landowners within 100 meters of the subject site, and then on September 14th, notice of tonight's public hearing was posted on the city's website. As of the PAC meeting on the 19th, staff had received 15 letters and 2 petitions. One petition was in support of the facility and one was in opposition. And there are some additional letters that were received last week that are included in council's agenda package this evening. At the PAC meeting, 11 area residents appeared before the committee and spoke in opposition to the proposal, and the applicant and 3 parties appeared before the committee in support of the proposal. Staff's recommendation was to remove the existing Section 59 conditions and impose a series of new conditions, largely focusing on landscaping, liquor licensing, illumination of the site, and vehicle and pedestrian access, as well as standard conditions relating to site and building plans and infrastructure and stormwater requirements. PAC adopted a slightly amended staff recommendation. They removed the requirement for pedestrian access from Clearview Row, which was contained in condition G. So currently, as recommended to council tonight, we recommend that only pedestrian access be provided from Manawaganish Road and between the parking area and the building. And there was also an amendment to condition B regarding landscaping, and community planning staff concur with the amendments put forward by the committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I will now open the public hearing. And so what I'll do with this one, because we have some registered speakers, I'll call the registered speakers according to the list, and then we'll go from there. So I'm going to ask for speakers who would like to speak against the application. And the first one I have on my list is Richard Tingley. So if you are there, Mr. Tingley. Oh, there you are.
Thank you, Your Worship. My name is Richard Tingley. Henry and I lived at 1675 Manawaganish Road, just across the street from 1660 Manawaganish Road. 21 years ago, we bought a newly constructed home. We bought the property both as an investment and as a place to live during our retirement and senior years. The location, quality of life, and peacefulness that the neighborhood offered attracted us to it. Having returned to our city of birth, we've appreciated the transformation and the growth that has occurred in St. John. Others have or will talk about the increased noise levels, traffic flow, parking, and safety. The presence of a bar with its attendant issues is a real concern for us. Not only will it negatively impact our quality of life, it will seriously diminish the value of our home. Our concern has been verified by Realtor Shirley Ryan, with her opinion that that devaluation Noise levels, increased traffic, and a bar were identified by her as a negative real estate issue, leading her to conclusions which state, and I read from her letter, the area along the stretch of 1660 Manawaganish Road has historically been desirable for homeowners with a high resale value. However, the construction of the proposed arena may change perceptions of the neighborhood, leading to a decrease in property values and making it less attractive to potential buyers. Having sat where you sit as mayor and councillor in Campbellton for over 12 years, I know something about decisions that councillors are called upon to make. I, like you, I always wanted to do the right thing for the citizens. Looking at this application, I see that you have a choice between recreation and housing, as well as between a quiet, peaceful, safe, and walkable neighborhood or a noisy, increased traffic, less safe neighborhood. With St. John's increase in population, you have given housing a top priority, and rightfully so. The application is before you because Monsieur Berriere and Boyle Real Estate have asked that the Section 59 conditions presently on the property be removed. First, let's look at the history of the property. The former building was built in 1950s and housed the blind, the deaf, and the visually impaired. These persons resided in apartments within the building while services were provided to them. The property in those years was zoned R1 and R2, and the nature of its use was residential. In 1991, the zone changed, but as you can see from the conditions placed on the lot, the City Council of the day recognized and respected the residential nature of the neighborhood and the adjacent presence of Cedar Hill Cemetery. The 1991 conditions are found in the PCA report for public consultation, where it states, the conditions limited the use of the property to uses within the building that formerly existed on the site for a group care facility as a special care home for a maximum of 15 senior citizens and mentally or physically disabled adults, or a senior citizens housing in association with a group care facility. Remember those words, use within the building. Between 1991 until it was sold to Boyle, the conditions were always met. The apartment units within it were rented to seniors. On buying, Mr. Boyle made it known to adjacent neighbors that his company planned to build garden homes, which would respect the residential character of the neighborhood. Boyle Real Estate demolished the building to develop it for that purpose. Then, quite frankly, money walked through the door, and Boyle decided to sell it to Monsieur Berriere. Having practiced law for over 50 years, I put on my legal hat, and I looked at the city's zoning bylaw and the Community Planning Act. The first thing I noted was that there is no authorization in the neighborhood community facility zone for a bar. The second thing I noted were those parts of Section 59 which deal with this application. The application is not to rezone the property. Berriere and Boyle want to keep the neighborhood community facilities zone as it is, because one of the uses in that type of zone is an arena. This application is simply to rescind the 1991 conditions, which I just read to you. Boyle Real Estate demolished the building within the last year to develop the land for a use contrary to the 1991 conditions. That contrary use now gives council the authority to rescind the 1991 conditions. Any use contrary to the 1991 conditions brings the application squarely within sections 59.5 and 59.6 of the Community Planning Act. I point out to you that the word resolution used in those subsections is legislative drafting, and in this matter refers to the zoning conditions imposed by the city or City Council in 1991 that you're now being asked to remove. Those sections state, 59.5, if land to which a resolution pertains is developed contrary to the provisions of the resolution, the council may cancel the resolution. But then the next selection applies, and look what happens. If council cancels a resolution under subsection 5, the land to which that resolution pertains shall revert to the type of zone under which it fell before the rezoning. In removing the conditions, it brings the property back into the R1, R2 zone and keeps the lot consistent with the predominant residential nature of the neighborhood and the city's priority for housing. R1 and R2 zones do not authorize either an arena or a bar. Never did Anne Marie and I ever imagine that at 81 and 82 years of age, we would have to face the fact that our home will decrease in value and we'd have to consider selling the home we love, which provides a suite for live-in caregiving, which we may require. At our age, peace and safety are paramount. We thought we had it all figured out. Tonight, you have the opportunity to do the right thing. Deny the application for all the reasons that we and all the neighbors have stated, and because, as you can see, approving the application will not authorize the building of a rink or a bar. By doing the right thing, you will respect the quality of life and the valuation of homes in the neighborhood, the overwhelming wishes of the neighborhood residents, and the peacefulness of the cemetery used by families as they bury their loved ones and visit grave sites. Please do the right thing. Thank you, Your Worship, members of council.
Thank you, Mr. Tingley. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Tingley? Good. If not, I'm going to thank you for being here, and we'll move on to the next person. Okay, the next person I have on my list is Denise Johnston. Denise, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, Denise, I'll get you to give us your name. I didn't say this previously, but I'm timing everyone to a max of 10 minutes, which would include what you have to say and any questions that counselors may have for you. So try to leave yourself a little bit of time for questions just in case.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Denise. Go ahead. I just want to reassure everyone that's listening tonight that our kit for this, this item is 138 pages. So we do have all of your emails and letters and everything in the kit as well.
Thank you very much.
So over to you, Denise.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Good evening to you and our esteemed counselors. My name is Denise Johnston, and I live with my 99-year young mother, Doris, on Coronation Avenue. My parents moved into their new home, one of only the first two ready for occupancy, in December of 1954. There, I guess I'm a little better focused now. Although a lot has changed, the charm, location, peacefulness, and attractiveness of the property appealed to others as well, who subsequently settled here over the years. These characteristics are strongly valued by all living here today. A tree-lined entranceway welcomes everyone to the neighborhood we call home. Primarily a residential community, there is also an elementary school with a playground and outdoor sports and special events field, and a cemetery, as well as a veterinary clinic, to name but a few. The proposal for 1660 Manowaganish Road seeks approval for a new to St. John ball hockey facility and bar on a piece of property that has always been residential in nature. Of other enterprises in this area, none are licensed. This application has been compared to the existing Peter Murray Memorial Field Sportsplex, around which a residential neighborhood is also situated. It seems a misconception exists that there is harmony in this arrangement. A few of us canvassed residents bordering this area and heard that they have had limited success in resolving issues which are also of key concern to us. Noise from the PA system, drinking on site after games, light pollution that disrupts sleep patterns for area residents, and loss of privacy and enjoyment of one's backyard oasis when games are being played. One resident expressed regret relocating there after purchasing via online viewing. So taken with their new home, they overlooked its placement in the neighborhood, and now their young children have difficulty sleeping for much of the year. At homeowners' expense, 5-foot cedar trees have been planted that have taken years to mature and provide only limited privacy. Wooden fencing around the facility has proven to be an inadequate barrier. There has been damage from rocks being batted onto homeowner property. Assistance from resources within City Hall and local law enforcement have been unable to prevent recurrences. Current real estate markets are unpredictable at best. There are deep concerns that property values will be negatively impacted if the ball hockey facility proceeds at this location. Island View Heights is more than those of us residing within 100 meters of the site proposal. Indeed, not everyone within that boundary received any notification. The executive director of Cedar Hill Cemetery did not receive a notice, nor did the St. John Animal Hospital or the family whose large residence is incorporated into that structure. Copies were shared with as many in the area as possible because their lives will also be affected. Only at the encouragement of the PAC membership has there been any consultation, despite the applicant having months to prepare, and there remain many unanswered questions. A petition was started to enable like-minded area residents to communicate their concerns, a copy of which is included in your information package. It now stands, and I will just quickly grab my sheets that you will hopefully be able to see. These are additional sheets of signatures. A total, pardon me one second, a total of 90 signatures is now included in the petition from neighbors about what the future holds for us. If you would kindly direct your attention to this second quick visual, and I made it small but hopefully colorful enough that you will be able to see. Let's just see if I can get this. If you would kindly direct your attention to this, I will do my best to try and explain that what you're looking at is a topographical or an outline map of Island View Heights and the border streets to the south, west, and east of Island View Heights. And as you can see, the areas shown in pink, illustrate the volume of community residences not in favor of this proposal at 1660 Manawaganish Road, the area highlighted in turquoise. The contrast is readily apparent, and I hope that's been enough that you could at least gain an idea from that visual in this regard. It has been challenging to feel empowered and be heard, a fundamental theme for community engagement contained in the City of St. John Parks and Recreation Strategic Plan. Accessing information on this proposal has also, frankly, been difficult. Time to prepare an informed response is limited, and in the absence of staff from their regular roles, response from those who have been able to reply is gratefully acknowledged. As stated in Chapter 13.1 of the zoning bylaw, a neighborhood community facility is to be complementary to surrounding residential neighborhoods. In other words, it's intended to blend and enhance the neighborhood in which it is placed. Section 5.1, Neighborhood and Housing Goals in the St. John Municipal Plan, echoes this expectation and further states, support stable residential neighborhoods and ensure that new development and redevelopment maintains and enhances the character of these existing neighborhoods. As counselors, you well understand the impact social media can have. It has a powerful influencing effect. Two online sources, a petition started by Monsieur Renaud Barrière and a retail St. John website that reports on new ventures, among other things, have generated a large, far-reaching response closely following this proposal. The pushback has been ugly. from many who unfortunately believe we are not in favor of a ball hockey facility in St. John. This is incorrect and troubling. The phrase, "not in my backyard," has been used in an attempt to discredit our concerns. In reality, permitting a ball hockey facility next to the residential neighborhood and a cemetery will not be a good fit with either the character or design of the neighborhood. Hopes and plans are in turmoil amongst neighbors in the neighborhood. Our quality of life will be compromised. It is our understanding that 3 facilities overseen by Monsieur Barrière were originally in residential areas and had to be moved to light industrial. There is no disruption to neighbors nearby, no worries about trespass or property damage, and no reduction in property values for residences most affected. In closing, we appreciate everyone who has been able to visit the actual site and our neighborhood prior to tonight's meeting. Thank you for permitting this information to be shared with you this evening.
Thank you, Denise. Does anyone have any quick questions for Denise? Okay, Deputy, we're at like 9 minutes, so make her quick, if you don't mind.
Just be very quick. Ms. Johnson, you mentioned that you were down to the Peter Murray area to talk to people about their experience. How many homes did you visit?
We only were able to visit about 6 or 7 on the immediate portion backing onto the arena, because several were not home at the time we were able to visit. So this reflects most of the homes on that straight stretch of Dexter and what's the name? I'm sorry, I can't recall offhand the name of the other dissecting street, Dexter Drive.
Okay, that's okay. The other thing I wanted to ask you about was, you said that you're under the understanding that there was 3 facilities in Quebec that had to be moved out of a residential area into light industrial.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Where did that come from?
That was information shared by Monsieur Barrière at, I believe it was the PAC meeting.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise.
Thank you, Your Worship.
All right, I'll call the next person down, please. Mona Malik, I have on the agenda next to speak against the application.
Hello.
Mona, oh, there you are. So I'm going to get you to give us your name and your address, and then you've got 10 minutes.
Mona Malik. I live on Island View Drive, up the street from the proposed facility. Hello, everyone. Mayor Reardon, councillors. I'm here as part of the Island View Heights community. Thank you so much for your time. The first concern I wanted to discuss is the public consultation aspect of this development process on Manawaganish Road. As per the Planning Advisory Committee meeting 2 weeks ago, Renaud Barrière, the applicant, stated he'd been looking at that location to develop his facility for about 6 months, so back sometime in March. And 3 months later, Gary Crossman from the Ball Hockey Association spoke to several of our neighbors that were within 100 meters of the proposed facility, while many other neighbors stated that he did not come to their homes. From the neighbors he visited, they stated they told him they did not believe the facility would be a positive improvement for this neighborhood. He told one of them that the project was only in the planning stages and that it would not move forward without the neighborhood support. And this was on June 6th, I believe. About 3 months later, on September 6th, some of the neighbors received a letter from the Planning Advisory Committee about the development, dated August 31st. And those who wrote letters to the PAC about the facility received an email 1 week before the PAC meeting on September 12th. These neighbors then had to inform the rest of the neighborhood. Next door to the proposed development, as Denise mentioned, is the Cedar Hill Cemetery, which did not receive letters about the development. And across the street from the proposed development and one house over, the Animal Hospital, they said they were also not informed, even though the owner lives in the same edifice. During the PAC meeting on September 19th, Alex Weaver Crawford, chair of the Planning Advisory Committee, suggested that Mr. Barrière hold a consultation with the neighborhood to understand our needs. She said that normally this would have already been done before the proposal for the development was submitted to the Planning Advisory Committee, but that it would be better than not having one at all. On September 20th, less than 24 hours after that PAC meeting, Mr. Barriere, Mr. Boyle, and Mr. Gordon Brough held a consultation at the property. They called one of the community members 6 hours before the consultation. She was in a meeting at work and rushed to contact as many neighbors as she could. Neighbors heard through word of mouth the last minute or were not able to attend. At this last-minute public consultation, the three men gave no further information about how they would mitigate safety concerns, traffic, sound, or light issues, even 6 months after planning the proposal. My question was, what was the point of surveying part of the neighborhood and then ignoring the responses? Why didn't they consult the neighborhood to find out what mitigation was possible before they applied to the Planning Advisory Committee? And why was there no attempt at mediation? The way that they went about it feels like they wanted to bulldoze over the concerns without the neighborhood having time to prepare before the PAC meeting. The second issue I want to bring up is why the cemetery's concerns have not been addressed. As Donna Gray, the executive director of the Cedar Hill Cemetery, wrote in a letter on behalf of the cemetery's board of directors, the property directly adjoins the cemetery, and yet they were not given notice of the proposed development. They have hundreds of funerals each year that can last up to an hour. The applicants said during the PAC meeting that they would work around the funerals. But like all of the other concerns mentioned, they have not explained how they could possibly change their schedules and their tournaments, closing down the rink to accommodate 150 funerals, plus Remembrance Day and other ceremonies that go on during the year. Would they shut down a tournament for an hour while people grieve? And what about families that come year-round to visit their loved ones' graves? They haven't given any solid assurances about how they will mitigate sound. So will the whistles, cheerings, and PA systems be on at the same time? Donna also stated in her letter that the Cedar Hill Cemetery will not authorize any overflow parking from the rink. The applicant talked about having shuttles coming down for tournaments because, of course, there are no hotel facilities for players in the Island View Heights area, another infrastructure issue. If this is to be a popular ball hockey spot for tournaments, for regionals and nationals, where are these shuttles going to park? Online, people have already stated on different forums that if there was a parking issue, they would just park in the cemetery. But how will the applicant keep them from doing that if it's not authorized? My question to the applicant and to the mayor and councilors are, in the spirit of public consultation and improving the neighborhood, why was no real public consultation done? If the applicant is so adamant about improving the neighborhood, why didn't they talk to people who live here as well as the organizations and businesses next door? The third and final issue I would like to mention is accessibility and inclusivity. According to Plan SJ, developments need to be accessible and inclusive. Why has this proposal not taken into account the needs of the neighborhood? I believe one of our city councilors told our neighbor that eventually the demographics of the neighborhood will change. It'll be a younger neighborhood. But there are many young families here right now that have signed the petition against the development, families with young children, who don't think the facility will hold up to this lack of infrastructure in Island View Heights. And for those who have been here for 50 plus years, they are just as worthy as any member of the community, and they have planned out their lives in this neighborhood. Many of them have raised their kids here, many of them are multi-generational households, and many of them want to stay to retire, and their concerns are just as valid. And I think someone else will speak to, the narrowness of the streets, the lack of sidewalks, the lighting, all of these things that increase traffic is going to worsen in this neighborhood. So those are my main concerns. Thank you so much.
Mona, before you leave, we do have a question here for you from Councillor Killen. So over to you, Councillor.
Sure, thank you.
You've got your,
no, I'm good. Thank you, Your Worship. Sorry, Mona, so can you clarify that you have a lot of really good questions in there, and I can't ask them for you in this setting. So okay. I'm wondering about why you didn't get the answers to them at the Planning Advisory Committee meeting, or because you do have a lot of comprehensive questions you asked there, or did you ask them and didn't get the answer, or did you have them after the fact?
So some of these were brought up at the PAC meeting, some by me, some by other people. I guess there were just very vague assurances that they would, they could plant vegetation or, that could absorb the sound, which, wouldn't really absorb the sound of an outdoor arena, an outdoor rink, and a PA system. I think somebody mentioned, not somebody from the applicant side, but somebody mentioned some kind of sound barrier as in fencing, some kind of material that could be used. But basically they haven't explained what they're going to use to mitigate sound.
Okay.
or what they're going to do to ameliorate any parking issues, overflow issues, where the shuttles are going to park. They didn't really have any answers for us at that consultation, basically, or at the PAC committee meeting.
Or at the PAC committee.
It was like basically assuring us that they would do something, but not necessarily saying how they're actually going to mitigate or what percentage of mitigation we're going to have. And like Denise was mentioning about, the other arenas and rinks in other areas, people move to those areas, but they might already know that there is like a rink there is a field there or whatever, but a lot of them still have to pay for their own sound mitigation, security mitigation, whatever
Right.
comes.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay, so you didn't get satisfactory answers there, is what you're telling me.
Yeah, nothing that
Okay.
would explain how they would actually mitigate these issues. Yeah.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mona, thank you very much. That's all I see for questions for you. I will call the next person that's registered is Rania Malik. Hello. I'll just get
Hi,
you,
how are you?
give us your name and your address for the
Hi,
record.
my
And
name
before you,
is
go ahead.
my name is Rania Malik. I live at 64 Island View Drive.
Okay, before you get started, I just have a question for the clerk, actually. With the clerk, with the public during the public hearing, should counselors have their cameras on?
Thank you, Your Worship. I would recommend that they do leave them on. There's not a rule or a requirement, but
Okay.
it's important for all council members to remember you have to be listening to the entire public hearing. So
Right.
if for any reason there's a council member that requires a break, they should notify the mayor. The mayor
Okay.
will take a recess.
All right.
Otherwise, yes, they have to listen to the entirety of all the speakers.
Okay, thank you. I wasn't sure what the protocol was on the virtual. I'm getting rusty on the virtual. Rania, back to you.
Thank you. To Your Worship, Mayor Reardon, members of Common Council, I really thank you for taking the time to hear what we have to say. This is where we live. We care a lot about this neighborhood. This has not been easy to talk about for me, as it relates back to a family property that was sold after my father suffered a traumatic brain injury. If you listen to the arguments of community members, I hope you will see that the intended purpose of that land was always residential. My family sold that property and were assured that the developers intended to build housing, something Mr. Tingley talked about in detail, but this is something our city sorely needs. The city needs housing, and this is very far from the original intent of the sale. If you listen to our arguments, I'm sure you will understand why this area is residential, and why that land should stay residential. In accordance with our city's municipal plan and the vision for our neighborhood, this is a community. This proposal is out of accordance with our municipal plan, as the proposed ball hockey facility doesn't reinforce the existing community character. It's not compatible with surrounding land uses, and the public transit and active transportation links are not provided to and from other key destinations, as the municipal plan outlines. The applicant, Mr. Barriere, has stated that 3 of the rinks he operates in Quebec are in light industrial areas. There is a reason why large-scale facilities like this belong in light industrial areas. Noise, disruption, traffic, and lighting are among some of these. The safety concerns are paramount here. If we have this level of traffic introduced here, we don't have the infrastructure to support it. The streets are narrow, lighting is low. In the winter, there are snowbanks that obscure visibility. There are quite a few tight corners. There are no sidewalks on Clearview Row, Island View Drive, Forest Hill Drive, or Coronation Avenue. If you've taken the time to visit our neighborhood, and I hope you have, this should be quite clear. There is a significant danger being introduced to the pedestrian traffic in this area. With a lounge with seating for up to 60 people and drinking introduced, statistically, we are increasing the probability of drunk driving and disorderly behavior. These changes will impact the landscape of this community forever. I'm sure many of us recall the passing of a community member on Manawagnish Road in 2021 after a drunk driving incident. I don't bring this up lightly. especially after experiencing the aftermath of a family member getting struck by a vehicle that caused a lifelong traumatic brain injury. And this happened on a poorly lit street with no sidewalks in winter, and I don't wish this experience on anyone. An average drunk driver has driven drunk 80 times before their first arrest. Introducing a bar in an area without reliable cab service or active city transit routes is dangerous, especially where the street lighting is very poor. There is high pedestrian traffic and a large community of senior citizens and young children traversing the streets. This will impact car accidents. Overflow parking will create barriers on side streets, barriers which can impact essential services such as ambulances and fire trucks. Manawagnish Road is a route regularly used by first responders. And to bring in this type of facility, we need infrastructure to support it. Because Manawagnish Road is not a highway, for many families, this is the access point by which they go to the city and work. We don't have scheduled transit lines. We have bike lanes that are used by children on scooters and bicycles. We have seniors walking their dogs and runners practicing for their next marathon. Further to this, Mr. Barriere has stated that this is to get kids involved in sports and active. He has not contacted any schools regarding this type of participation. Also, a lounge license is required for selling liquor in public places such as bars or pubs. And a lounge license does not permit persons under the age of 19 to be on the licensed premises without parental accompaniment. I think this also speaks to the environment we want for our kids. Getting active in sports is great, but it is possible to do this without a bar. Curling clubs don't promote their bars in the same way. This is a quiet neighborhood. I have lived in vibrant uptown neighborhoods. Bars often lead to violations of noise bylaws, disturbances, and drunk driving. The difference is that the uptown and commercial zones have cab service, public transit, are well lit, and have a strong police presence. The proposal details that the lounge or bar should be restricted to operating hours. And Mr. Barriere's proposed operating hours were from 5:30 to 11, not counting shootouts and overtime. This is vague and this is not binding. Overtimes or shootouts could at any time. Therefore, the facility would not have restricted hours. So how will the lounge be restricted at all, really? His facilities in Quebec start much earlier and end much later. And for a stable residential area, this will be highly disruptive. This is experienced in neighborhoods near the ball fields and hockey rinks, and these are not year-round facilities with liquor licenses. As Denise mentioned in her piece. Further to this, under section 13.1 in the municipal plan context, the permitted uses for a neighborhood community facility include arenas, policing offices, cultural establishments, emergency services facilities, places of worship, schools, supportive housing, community centers, crisis care facilities, daycare centers, libraries, recreation facilities, and supportive facilities. There's nothing that details a lounge or bar under these definitions. The existing use is described in Schedule E and has an exception of each lot respectively, identified therein as being located in the neighborhood community facility zone. There is no exception for 1660 Manawagnish Road. It may be used for these purposes and, quote, for no other purpose. I have questions about this. Is the bar to be used to finance and maintain revenue for this facility? Are they able to handle the capital costs, but would they be able to handle the operational costs without a bar and less restrictive operating hours? What are the sources of revenue if this plan fails? Will they bring in gambling machines? Where is the revenue coming from? And what happens if the private investor does not make enough money? Do we get another empty arena in the city? We have existing rinks and arenas that are currently empty. According to the financial statements from the New Brunswick Ball Hockey Association, there have been enough funds to rent, but not enough to pay for financing and operational costs. Has there been sound financial planning done to ensure that this is done properly? This also extends to mitigations for noise. The applicant has chosen to do this in a residential neighborhood that will end up absorbing the costs for security, damage, and noise. Why not choose light industrial here unless it is a matter of cost? And if it's a matter of cost, what other corners will they cut? Section 10.4 of the municipal plan states, directing investment to improve existing facilities in designated intensification areas while repurposing some facilities that no longer serve the community is a direction the city must take in order to build successful, complete communities. If the plan is to create a popular facility for use within the city, the location is wrong and the size of the property will not be sufficient. You have an outdoor rink with bleachers for spectators, an indoor rink, a lounge on site that can seat 60 people, and 80 parking spaces. This is a vehicle-dependent area. The development will bring traffic, and the presence of the bar will disrupt the existing neighborhood. I
Malik,
hope you. Yes.
Can I
yes, sorry.
interrupt you just for a second?
Of
You're
course.
almost out of time. Did you want
sure.
an opportunity for counselors to ask you a couple of questions, or did you want to just finish off with what you have to say there? It's up to you. I've got like 2 minutes left.
Okay, I'll be quick. Sorry.
I've got 2 minutes left, and I know Councillor Hickey had a question, at least one for you.
Okay. I guess my final points are that sound travels really easily here. We've not been satisfied by the feedback on how noise, lighting, and disorderly behavior are going to be mitigated. This is a very quiet area in the evenings and on the weekends, and I would really ask that you consider the potential negative impact before proceeding with approval of this type of facility here. The municipal plan for the city of St. John states that new and redeveloped land uses in residential areas are to reinforce predominant community character. And Place St. John articulates that recreation options have to consider the needs of all ages and physical abilities. And this center is not considering these factors, nor have they made provisions for accessibility or handicap parking in their renderings. Compatibility with the municipal plan is meant to determine suitability of new proposals. So, for the reasons I've outlined, I don't believe that this facility is suitable.
Okay,
But yes, go ahead with questions.
All right. Does anyone else have any questions then? Councillor Hickey, did you say you had a question for the, for staff? Okay, well, the staff questions, we'll bring that, so we can bring forward some of those questions to staff right afterwards. All right, sounds good. Okay, perfect. Moving on then. Thank you very much for coming in this evening.
Thank you for your time.
All right, the next person I have is on my list is Alex Weaver Crawford. Over to you.
Good evening, Your Worship and councillors. I'm Alex Weaver Crawford, the chair of the Planning Advisory Committee. I'm just here to answer any questions that councillors or Your Worship might have in regards to this application. It was quite controversial. You'll hear from a lot of the members of the public who were in attendance at the PAC meeting on September 19th. I know that my letter, the Planning Advisory Committee's letter that's signed by me, the chair, was included in your package. We did support staff's recommendation with two changes, as Mark Reed from the Planning Department mentioned in his presentation. It was difficult, and some of the questions that we had that we'd hope would be answered with public consultation from the applicant sound like they may still be unresolved. With that said, I do stand by the letter that we wrote, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, does anyone on my team have any questions for Alex Weaver Crawford? Yes, I have one here from Councillor Killen for you.
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess, Alex, like I was speaking to Mona earlier, so I'm guessing you're referring to that interaction. So would you be able to elaborate?
Among others.
Yeah, among others, absolutely. So would you be able to elaborate on some of those points made, or do we need to sort of get them back or repeated?
I think they have been extremely well at voicing their opinions. To be honest, very well, the same as they had been, if not better than when they addressed the PAC committee a few weeks ago. The issues are similar. It's the timing, the operational hours concerns, the safety concerns with parking and adding increased traffic to a pretty quiet community on small streets. Again, the lack of consultation, the liquor license that would be associated with the lounge. They're all things that the area residents that you've already heard from have addressed, and I don't know if there's the other ones had been lighting. I think that had been mentioned as well. I think a lot of them have been covered. You've heard them already, but they're very valid concerns, and that's the same thing that we had heard of. But we did ask the applicant to answer some of these questions during the PAC meeting, and there had been some vague answers around the hours again. So I'm hoping to hear a little bit more a more solid response from them about the hours specifically, and obviously about sound mitigation and safety and all of the other concerns on top of that. I hope that answers your question.
No, it
Counselor.
does, and I can definitely ask them that later. So thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions for the chair of PAC? Their
I do
recommend.
make-
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Councillor Radwan. I was going to say the recommendations all in your kit. Councillor Radwan, I saw your
Yeah,
hand a
sorry, I'm
second
not-
ago.
Yeah, I think you can't see me, but yeah, no, that would be great. Thank you, Mayor. So through you to Alex, I just had a question, and I think this is the first proposal that we've had for recreation facilities since we've been on council, and I don't recall anything going to council previously. So just wondering, was there any thought for PAC to putting any sort of restriction on what type of sound barriers would go in?
We didn't put, oh, sorry, I'll let you finish. Sorry, Counselor.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you guys had that sort of discussion, but that was one feeling that I kind of had when I was looking through this, is what about sound barriers, especially with it being an outdoor rink? If it was all interior, then I probably wouldn't have as much thought to that. I suppose cars and people would cause noise, but especially those slashes of hockey pucks and things makes me think about sound being a huge issue possibly.
No, absolutely. And these were certainly things that did come up during the PAC meeting. We did seek to address some concerns. So like we mentioned, and it's hard to kind of encompass everything. We did cover things like, could we add some fencing and vegetation? And although, we know that's not going to mitigate all of the sound issues, we did hope that through public consultation, the applicant might find a way with the area residents to mitigate that more. So although they had been discussed, we didn't feel that we could put in something with the recommendations that would specifically address the sound mitigation.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. And Mayor, I just want to let you know, I have to move and I'm going to shut my camera off briefly, but I'm still listening. I just have to plug in. I'm losing juice on my tablet, so.
Okay. All right. Any more questions for Alex Weaver Crawford? All right. So
Thanks, Your Worship.
All right. Thank you for being here this evening. All right. So we'll move on to the next person I have on my list is Karen Jeanette. Saw you earlier, I think. Did I, Karen?
Hello.
There you are.
Hi.
Okay. So I'll get
Your
you to give us
Worship.
your name and we've got it on the screen there, but in your address, if you don't mind.
Okay, I'm Karen Gannett, and I live immediately adjacent to 1660 Manawaganish Road at 1680 Manawaganish Road. I would like to talk about safety. My first question is, why was there no traffic impact statement done, which I believe would have looked into pedestrian and bicycle activity, speed, turn movements, and traffic volume to determine the effect of such an undertaking being upon our community? This is not a busy road. There's a misguided perception that Manawaganish Road is a busy arterial road. It is not. It is a community road that is busy like any other residential area when residents leave for work, when they go to school, early in the morning with buses making runs, and again at the end of the day with residents arriving back home from work and school. By 7:30 at night, it is very quiet. There's a busy and well-used sidewalk for joggers, biking, walking, etc. Anyone walking, biking or jogging along Manawaganish Road, should this be passed, will have to yield to the constant traffic entering and exiting the facility, posing a personal safety risk. This is not a very well-lit area, again, posing a safety issue for pedestrians, not visible to traffic and vehicles in a hurry to make a gain. We have community members who walk along Manawaganish Road and into the neighborhood who are challenged with sight and hearing disabilities, putting them at an increased risk of injury with increased traffic impacting your sidewalks. Cars on Manawaganish Road turning onto Coronation, where there are no sidewalks, cannot see the pedestrians walking on Coronation, nor can the pedestrians see the vehicles coming onto Coronation, creating a dangerous situation. Cars take a tight turn onto Coronation, and as traffic increases, so does the chance of injury or worse occurring. An obvious safety hazard. compounded by the low lighting in this area. And this will also create a backlog of cars on Manawaganish Road, which only has 2 lanes, waiting to enter Coronation Avenue. Do I have to mention emergency vehicles? We do not have the infrastructure, sidewalks, lighting, signage to absorb the increase in traffic. Overflow parking. 80 parking lots have been designated for this facility. With handicap parking, this will take it down to possibly 72, 73. This space is not equipped to handle that many parking spots for the players, the spectators, the officials, the staff, employees, and players staying parked in the parking lot to watch the next game. Now you have cars entering the lot, finding there's no parking, and leaving the lot to go in search of parking. A situation that will keep repeating itself over and over again, resulting in a unsafe pedestrian vehicle situation on Manawaganish Road, the sidewalk, and neighborhoods. Going back to the size of the parking lot, the Lord Beaverbrook Rink currently houses ball hockey in St. John, where there are 150 plus parking spots available. Again, this is a conservative estimate. They also have overflow parking for another 150 plus spaces in the 2 neighboring hotels. Our neighborhood cannot absorb that level of parking, nor assume safety risk driven by this proposal. That is why this facility needs to be in a commercial or light industrial zoned area where this type of activity can be absorbed by the very nature of location. Mr. Renault, the developer, moved 3 of his 4 Quebec arenas from residential to a light industrial zone, as discussed at the PAC meeting. And insert overflow parking where? On our side streets. In the cemetery next door, our side streets are not equipped in size nor for safety, as there are no sidewalks. Cars will park on both sides of the street. Pedestrians will have to walk around the cars in the middle of the street. And just imagine snowbanks. Neither Manawaganish Road nor Island View Heights are designated for priority snow removal. This is a community of walkers, and we will be inconvenienced. There's also the risk of property damage and personal injury as a result of players and spectators gathering in the parking lots and on the side streets near their vehicles after games, with the bar on site and personal alcohol brought to the game. We have spoken to residents bordering the ball field and Rink Endeavour Road who share the same concerns: drinking, noise, traffic, safety. We spoke with one resident in particular who has ongoing property damage done by those after the game gathering, often drinking. When he reached out to the City of St. John, he was told there's nothing they can do. He's worried someone will get hurt because of this after game gathering. What happens with the private ownership, and how can we enforce safety? As the architectural rendering shows, there is parking along the side where the houses border, despite the assertion that parking is on the cemetery side. Again, homeowners will have to absorb noise, damage, and disruption. With the bar on site and the gatherings after the games involving alcohol, there are many concerns with respect to personal safety, injury, property damage, and drinking and driving. And I guess, Ron, you talked about not fitting with Plan SJ, so I'll skip that. But as an advocate for persons with disabilities, most of whom live below the poverty line, and for inclusion, I need to add that this facility should be in an area easily accessed by public transportation. Island View Heights and Manawaganish Road have limited bus service, all ending by 6:30 p.m. Probably 90%, if not more, of residents in this neighborhood have vehicles and can drive to any location to participate in recreation. Finally, I would like to keep in mind that Mr. Barrio took 3 of his rinks out of residential areas to lightly industrial zones in Quebec. Why is he planning an arena in St. John in a residential area? And I have to end with, more growth will happen if this proposal is denied. Mr. Barrier will build the ball hockey facility, but in a better suited location within St. John, because they want to be in St. John, because of the players, the passion here, and because Gary Crossman is here. He is in St. John, and he advocates so well for the sport. Mr. Boyle will develop this land as an apartment building, which St. John sorely needs. I will build a multi-generational addition, also known as a granny suite, but we won't call it that. And my house will be sold to my son, who will grow his family in this community. More growth will happen, and our community will be better for it if this proposal is denied at this location. Thank you for the councillors who took time to visit our community, to listen, to ask questions, and represent your constituents. Thank you for your efforts.
Thank you very much for being here this evening. Do any of my councillors have any questions this evening for Karen? All right, Karen, not seeing any. Thank you again. Okay. Got to get my list out here. The next person I have on my list, and I've these, they've been listed for me. I'm just going through the list, so there'll be mixed ones of support and not support, I guess, is Mr. Renaud Barrier is up next.
Hello, pleasure meeting you all.
Hello.
So I'm the one who has been mentioned a few times around since the last half hour or so.
So you're the applicant and the landowner, correct?
I'm not the landowner. I'm
Oh.
just the applicant. I heard my name though. That's why I came in.
Oh, okay. Yes. Okay. So you're the applicant. Okay. Sounds good.
Yes. I heard some things that I think needed to be corrected. I don't know if it might be the language barrier or so, but sometimes, like maybe in our communications, it could have went wrong the way I spoke or the way I expressed myself. One of the things I've been hearing in the last hour was like that I'm owning 4 facilities in Quebec. I'm owning one facility who's got 4 outside rings. So
Okay.
I think that's needed to be like pointed out. And we moved from residential to light industrial, as I mentioned, but the purpose was to own a lot because we were renting it. And we were renting it for like 10 years, 7 years, in fact, because I've been owning that organization for 10 years, but it was in place 15 years before. So the Bal-Hockey organization in Joliet was located at a residential point of view for 22 years without any problems at all. So I think we might mention that I think it was almost important. Pardon me. So basically, that's why we moved, because we want to own our proper piece of land, and we came on a light industrial one. So that's one of the facts I think that needed to be straightened up. There's no PA outside system. That's not on plan. Neither will it be. There's an inside PA system. The fact I heard a lot for the parking lots, I think one thing that might need to be corrected is the Bal-Hockey has that conception here that it's been played 5-on-5. So people are guessing that's 15 to 20 people per team, which is not. The rings are smaller and it's been played 3-on-3. So it's 7 people per team, which is why the 80 places is enough overnight. It's half the team who are usually composed in ice hockey. So that's some bullet point I took during the last session. I don't in New Brunswick I call a liquor license. It's not called a bar. I think it's a sports license because we've got a lot of youngsters who are coming in and coming out. So we can't operate a bar per se. Neither a lounge. It would be a sports center. So youngsters can come in and out because they represent. I don't know the percentage of our Bal-Hockey population, but they represent a lot. In Quebec, we have, I'd say, more than 200 people, youngsters, who are playing at our facilities. And we also have some deals with nearby schools, so the schools can come in during the day and doing a school program while the day is going. So we can't obviously sell alcohol, and we don't want that during the day. We just want to sell this alcohol during operating hours regarding the Bal-Hockey operations. As the adult goes, as mentioned at the PAC meeting that went through 2 weeks ago. And also the operating hours from this Bal-Hockey facility would be from 5:30 to 10:30, max 11, depending if there's overtime or a shootout. With the exception of the school program, as I just mentioned. If there's schools that are signing up to be a part of the Bal-Hockey program, as we hope to, because we want to develop that branch, that would be during the day. and we reached out to the cemetery. So if we can have the schedule of the cemetery, if we have a school program that's coming in during the day, we can operate only within the inside building and not the outside one. So out of respect for burials and ceremony. And we've also been told that the cemetery is operating 6 Saturdays a year, which we won't have any tournament or stuff. So we want to respect the schedule that they already have and not be in conflict of interest or conflict with those. That's the main points I heard that I thought were worth mentioning.
Thank you. You're only in just over 4 minutes, but what I'd like to do is we've got 3 of the counselors have their hands up, so I'd like to move to those questions because I think we can probably get some good information from there.
Yes.
So Councillor Killen's up first. So Councillor, over to you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you for joining us for now.
Pleasure.
I'm wondering about the public engagement piece because it seems like people were a little bit frustrated with not being contacted. So I'm wondering if you can sort of speak to that or talk a little bit about that part of it.
It has been told like it was a long due deal for acquire this land, and we were working in St. John for almost a year to find a proper piece of land, and this is the one that we came upon. So when we tried to acquire it, we asked Gary Crossman, who's a well-known figure in the ball hockey community, if he could knock on some doors just to ask the neighbors, like, would you mind? It might be possible. It might. So that was I heard like in May it might be true. I'm not taking notes on those dates. And after the PAC meeting, we are in St. John right now. We were in St. John 2 weeks ago, but we weren't supposed to stay for the whole day. We pushed further our departure so we can meet with those people as suggested per the chairwoman. So that's why we came within 24 hours as far as the meeting goes. But we were kind of short on time for that reason.
Okay, no, thank you.
No worries.
Thank you. Councillor Sullivan?
Thanks, Your Worship. I think I answered my own question, though. But just with regards to the comments about the bar, and perhaps you could give a bit of a description of how and when you see the bar operating.
Within the hour of operation of the league. So let's say we do have operations starting at 5:30. The bar will start at 5:30. The last game will end at 10:30, 11 or so, approximately. So people will come out of their game, have a little chat, grab a beer, and then go home. So it won't be an open bar. It is, as it's been told in the PAC meeting and as the recommendations goes through, and that's the way we are doing business also in Quebec. So I'm at ease with that kind of operation. It's within the ball hockey operating hours.
And if a youth league was playing, would the bar be open for parents, or would it be closed when the youth league is playing?
If it start, let's say 5:30 till 10:30. That would be operating hours. You can say it's hard to guess if there's going to be youngsters all week from 5:30 till 6:15, because that's usually the first hour that the youngsters are coming because of the homeworks and stuff. If they come, it's just before the adult league. So usually we open the bar also to give a person to have a person in place just to welcome people to come in.
So similar to how curling clubs would operate.
It's kind of the same, I've been told. I'm not used with the way curling club is operating. I'm more of a ball hockey person, but the way I've been spoken of is it's kind of the same. Yeah.
Okay. No, thank you.
Councillor Redwan?
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to Mr. Barrio, thank you for coming. I did have a question. You mentioned 80 parking spaces. That's what you're planning for?
Yeah.
And how much of that would be accessible parking? Do you know what you need to plan for?
I'm not sure I get the question. Sorry.
Would you have like wheelchair parking?
Yeah. I think it was on plans. It's supposed to, at least.
Okay. Just wondering if you have any plans for a sound barrier and what that would consume of.
Yeah, we do have a plan regarding a sound barrier. I know that there's been some, well, just so people can understand well, there's only one outside ring facility. Instead, I've got 4 in Quebec. Okay, so the sound it's not 1 per 1. It's way more, like when you've got 4, it's way more noisy than only 1 for 1, or let's say 2, 3, 4. It's exponential. But to have one and one within walls, the building is going to be blocking a lot of the sound that's gonna come through the outside rings. And the way we put the building was for the sound to be mitigate at its maximum. So that's why you put it that way. Also, I spoke with a reference from Liam O'Brien, who's a neighbor. So I spoke with Scott Alton, who's working in Quebec, who's got a company called 4S Solutions. He's working with wall of noise. And I spoke with one of my partner and told him the idea that could be well-rounded enough was to put a wall of noise at the extremity near Ron's house, which is farther north. And because that way it will cut the sound. That's an L. Let's say it's in the building's there, and the outside ring is just beside it. So that part of the outside ring would be covered by a wall of noise and would cut the sound, I'd say 80% almost. So to have one outside ring operating with that kind of measures been taken on that's for me, as far as my experience goes, that's not really an issue.
So it's my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, that your parking is going to be on the side where, and I went to the site to take a look. So the parking is going to be on the side where the graveyard is. So there's houses in the front, there's houses all through the back. So I'm wondering how, where is the rink? It doesn't make sense that there's not houses there to mitigate the noise from it. I mean, it's surrounded by homes with the exception of the graveyard.
Sorry, there's only one home. The outside ring is directed at one house, and we spoke to the gentleman who lives there. Sorry, and that's the one. Ron is his name, I think, and he was agreeing with us, so he was okay with the outside ring, but we still thought of a way to mitigate the sounds, but the way the sound is propulsing would be towards his house, and the building would be next to it. So we're talking about a 30 feet tall building who would cut off the sound completely. Regarding the outside rings, of course, the inside ring would be within those walls, so it's not a problem. It's not an issue.
So just so I understand, the rink is actually at the back. Is it towards the left-hand side or closer to the graveyard?
The outside rink, you mean?
Yeah.
Is the one towards the graveyard.
Okay. Yeah. So there's still, I see what you're saying. But I think, from my perspective, and I've liked watching ball hockey, by the way, from my perspective, I mean, when you have hockey pucks slashing and balls hitting the sides, it just echoes. So, so I'm not sure. I think that I would certainly feel more comfortable if there was a surrounding sound barrier wall there. Mind you, I don't think that would help. I mean, it might help the neighbors just having the building, the ones that live across the street from the site. Anyway, but I do have other questions, Mayor, but I'm probably...
Yeah, well, I'm going to move on to the deputy for a quick question before we run out of time here. Go ahead, deputy.
Thank you, Your Worship. Mr. Muriel, you said that you had a facility in Quebec that had 4 outside surfaces in a residential area for 20 plus years.
Yeah.
And you had no complaints?
No.
No complaints?
Well, we had people gathering balls for their grandchildren. We had people coming by to see some game. And if I'm being completely honest with you, we had 3 outside rinks at that exact location. Okay. And when we moved, we had a 4th one.
So you moved from a residential area to a light industrial. Was that intentional, or was that just a coincidence?
I wouldn't say intentional at all. Like, we were serving in nearby Joliet, we were serving lots regarding 4 criteria, which are the dimension, who can be possible for a ball hockey facility, the landscaping, the pricing range, and simply like What was the fourth? I'm from.
Your worship, I think Mr. Ramon has already answered this question. He said very clearly at the top that he moved to own the lot in a light
Thank you.
industrial
That was my
area.
fourth.
So
That was my fourth.
I think if
Actually,
Deputy Mayor
thank you,
McKenzie
Mr.
can go back and hear that response, it's already been made. That would be
Yeah,
timely.
okay, thank you.
Appreciate the interruption. So getting back to my time, Mr. Reynolds, you said that there's 3 people on
Point of
each
order, your
team
worship,
plus-
I don't understand. I was just trying to clarify to the Deputy
Worship,
Mayor, there's
yep.
no need for that level of decorum interruption here. I wasn't interrupting. I was saying that
Counselor?
You're
that
saying-
the
Yes, but
individual's
I-
already answered the
Okay, what I'm
question.
gonna say is that if anyone would like to interrupt, the proper way would be to say point of order, and then we'll go from there. So can we just do that in the future, and we can want to move on with this? Deputy, I'll go back to you to finish off your question. I would like to wrap this up a little bit. but
Okay,
Counselor-
you know what? The last question I have is just about parking, and I was using the LBR that has one surface during the ball hockey season, and this one having 2. And I would say that the parking is a little bit inadequate. I would say that you would be having people park on the street. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Counselor Redwan, do you have another quick question? Because I've
Yeah.
got another 4 applicants here that would like to speak
Yeah,
as well,
I-
3.
Yeah, I have 2 and they're important. So your facilities in Quebec, Mr. Barrio,
Yes.
it does one of them stay open till 5 in the morning?
No.
No, okay, because I looked up some things, but I didn't know for sure if it was yours. It looked like it was.
No.
but
not as far as I'm concerned.
I know some neighbors mentioned 1 in the morning, though.
Yeah. That's the Google. You know, when you're Googling our facility, they need an entering operating hour and an ending one.
Mm.
That's what's been written.
Okay. The other question that I have is, so community facilities, much like Mr. Tingley, I was concerned about there being a bar in a community facilities because it's not listed. Usually a bar itself is in general commercial. So with this one though, is the same zoning as what we have at the Thistle St. Andrews Curling Club. But as somebody who did some business out of there, they also put on great big weddings and events there. Do you have any plans to put on big weddings and events?
I'm not quite sure if I want to. I know that corporates are fond of ball hockey rinks, and they like to rent the place to make some small tourneys within their own business. But as far as I'm concerned, no, I don't plan to make big weddings in ball hockey rinks.
The only other thing that I wanted to ask is there was mention that you were going to, if you had overflow of parking that you needed for tournaments, that you would possibly shuttle people. Do you have a plan of where you would shuttle them to? Do you own another parking lot? Is there any plan for that?
No, but there's no plan for tournaments as we speak neither.
Okay. You don't do them at your current facilities?
Well, no, I got, let's say, 1 per year, and I'm okay with the parking lots that we got.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I just want to thank you, Renaud, for being here this evening.
My
I'm gonna move. How do you pronounce your last name, by the way?
Barrière.
Okay, I'm not gonna be able to do that. Barrière. It's very,
Oh, nice try,
very
though.
fancy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna call the next speaker. I've got Gordon Bro. Mr. Bro, there. Do I have Gordon Bro here? I have him listed on my.
Hello. Hi.
Oh,
I'm
there you
coming
are,
on.
Mr. Bro. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I have you listed as the applicant and the landowner. So can you clarify your position?
Yes.
that-
Mr. Boyle's going to speak on our behalf. So we don't say the same thing. So I'll just have him come on just a moment, please.
All right. So you're the applicant and the landowner?
Oh, can you see me here?
I can see you. So you're, okay, Mike Boyle, we've got you there. Now, you're speaking for the landowner, it says on my notes. Is that
Just one-
correct?
Just 1 second, if you can excuse me, I'll turn my mic out.
Who's going to
Okay.
turn this on, please?
Okay, sorry about that. Okay. I didn't hear the question.
I've just, on my notes here, it says Mike Boyle speaking for landowner. So I'm just getting you to clarify what your position is here with us.
Yes, I'm Mike Boyle and I'm the current.
Okay, We're not, now I can't hear you.
1 second.
Okay, there you are. All right.
Okay, all
We're
clear
good
now?
there. All right.
Thank you.
Okay.
And I'm speaking right on, everybody can hear me? I'm speaking?
Yes, we can hear you
Okay.
now.
Okay, any questions right off the bat, or I'll just go ahead with my blurb?
Well, why don't you do like a couple of minutes of whatever,
Okay,
and
will
then
do.
that'll give
Okay.
the counselors an opportunity to ask
Okay.
some questions.
Okay, okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Bro and I purchased the land last September, I believe, and our purpose was to possibly fix the building, but we weren't long ruling that out, and our next thought was to tear it down and possibly do garden homes or an apartment complex. When we took the building down, the cost became quite exorbitant when we had to take care of the mitigation of the oil tanks. We paid a little extra, or quite a bit of extra money, to get it torn down expediently, where it was in close proximity to all the homes. So we had a company that was able to do it in like 9 days as opposed to 6 weeks. So the cost elevated quite high. So we weren't long after having it all dismantled and removed till we realized that putting garden homes wouldn't be profitable. So we were approached in March by the ball hockey facility partnership, and we thought we'd entertain that process. There's a few things that I wrote down as Renaud was talking about with some of the mist that we were going on with the bright floodlights. With an apartment complex, there's going to be dusted on lights, so the bright lights that they were somewhat concerned about may be mitigated after the ball hockey is shut down. It was mentioned that the water view, we were a little concerned, even we're designing the complex, that we were going to actually eliminate some of the water views of some of the neighbors in the area, but if this development goes through, that's going to be mitigated. We do have there's a gentleman, it was mentioned by Renaud, directly behind us. His name is Ronnie Moore. We were told that he was upset about the complex going in, but we have a letter where he said he would actually prefer to have the rink, and he's overlooking the outside area. And I think on one of the diagrams it showed in pink that he did sign the petition, and in further thinking he decided that that wasn't exactly what he wanted to do, and he wrote a letter in favor of it. These gentlemen, they're all in. If this goes forward, I was told that there's going to be possibly 30 part-time jobs or full-time jobs included in this. The spin-offs would be the construction, the engineering, the paving, and the landscaping. So there's quite a spin-off for the city on this, which I'm pleased to accept. The facility is designed, and it has to be mentioned that it's 3-on-3. And I thought initially it was going to be 5-on-5, but that's where the parking is, I was told, more than adequate, because there's only 14 players per surface. So you could have 28 players when it's going full tilt, and then of course they switch over. And I think those were my main concerns that I was. As I said, this Renaud was planning on coming down here with his wife, who's a teacher, and 2 of his children. And we did a walkabout after we had our public session, and we met with some of the neighbors, and one of them was walking his dog. At the time it was dark, and Renaud was actually looking at a spot where he could possibly purchase for his family. So at this point, I'm thinking if his gentleman's all in from Quebec to come down here and run this facility, and willing to live in a home that was for sale, which is 3 doors up, I believe, from the facility, that it's he must be quite confident if he's going to put his little children in that neighborhood.
All right, thank you. We're gonna get a few questions for you here. I have one right off the quick here, but do you know what the total investment would be for that whole project, approximately?
Approximately close to, would be over 2 million, well over 2 million, pushing possibly 3.
Okay.
They've been told, I picked them up at the airport and like you said, they were, and that's why the public consultation, they actually stayed longer to meet with the people. I knew it was a little bit difficult for them, but it was nice enough for them to stay. But they were telling me there was a word that they said in French, but I didn't quite understand, but it's flagship. This is, they want to do a flagship facility, and they like the feel of St. John. They have been looking at spots in Moncton and Fredericton, but Moncton is their next step if things don't go well. But their heart set on St. John, which I love. $3 million investment with the family coming down with it. So it was pretty impressive to me.
Okay, does anyone have any questions for Mr. Boyle? Okay, I'm not seeing any questions. Okay, I'm gonna call. Thank you so much for being here this evening.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
I'm gonna call my next speaker down, and that is Sarah Hayward.
All right, I don't know why my camera's not showing. Can you hear me though?
Yes.
I have no idea why my camera's not showing. Oh.
There you are.
Okay. Okay. All right. Sorry, I have a horrible cold. I don't normally sound like this. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. My name's Sarah Hayward, and I'm the president of the Brunswick Ball Hockey Association. Gary Crossman, who has been spoken of, he's my vice president, and his heart and soul is also ball hockey. He's been very creative in promoting ball hockey in the St. John and surrounding areas. In terms of this facility, it poses a significant opportunity for the ball hockey community, but for the city, it's a great opportunity for the city. In looking at the St. John Parks and Recreation Strategic Plan and Play SJ, I noticed that recommendation 5 is part of examining public-private partnerships to deliver recreation facilities, and an out-of-province investment supports this strategic plan. And one concern that Mr. Boyle just said that I spoke of at the Planning Advisory Committee, what was kind of disheartening at the beginning is I know that we are, the heart of ball hockey is in St. John, but the kind of vibes I'm getting is the other communities, specifically Moncton and Fredericton, would welcome this with open arms. And I'm born and raised in St. John. I've been involved in ball hockey around the world, from the local level all the way up to international. And that's my biggest fear, to see something go somewhere else again. And then St. John once again can be the have-not area when it comes to recreation. Ball hockey's for everyone, and access to a year-round facility would allow for expansion of both the ages that could play and the skill level opportunities. So there would be more floor time available with the two surfaces. The 3-on-3 is a great model that is operational in Quebec. And if Renault is moving his entire family here, I mean, if this goes as well as it could, it would be fantastic if the ball hockey business really took off in the St. John area, and perhaps there would be an opportunity to build a facility that could accommodate 5-on-5 as well. There's definitely a market for 3-on-3, and I can speak to what Mr. Renault said on the fact that seven people play on a 3-on-3 team as opposed to the 5-on-5. Now, one thing that because I've been listening to this entire thing, I'm not certain where the information came about the New Brunswick Ball Hockey Association financial information that was stated earlier, but I can guarantee we're not for profit, and we're not out to buy an arena. I know there are associations, people within ball hockey that have looked at former infrastructure, but realistically, an arena, what Renault is trying to build is much more suitable for ball hockey than a cement floor. And hopefully all of you will get to see this beautiful facility, see the floor, see how it's much less impact on your poor old joints than pounding on cement, because it has a deck flooring on it, which is like a plastic tile. And the last thing that I'll say, and again, I'm sorry I'm all over the place here, but I'm not feeling well. I see that Pro Kids is on the agenda tonight. This facility lines up perfect with the Pro Kids initiative, like having more kids to have more opportunities to play a sport. I think this is a huge opportunity for St. John, and I would love to see this come to fruition in St. John. As I said, biggest fear is it's going somewhere else, because it's definitely happening.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. We've got a couple of questions for you, if you don't mind. I've got Councillor Killen up first with a question.
Awesome. Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Sarah. I love your enthusiasm around this. And I'm wondering if you can speak to about what communities who have accepted this look like. Because I think, you know, the sound of children, like I get it, like there's a lot of concern around noise and disruption and things like that. But what are some of the benefits in your mind that accompany this being included in a neighborhood?
Well, I think everything from like the opportunity to grow, like to grow kids sports, to have kids playing. I don't know if we would, school's one option, also regionally. Like I grew up where East St. John baseball played West St. John, played North, and that's non-existent anymore. And that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because now we have one hockey association in the entire city, right? Like there's always been rivalry. I think there's an opportunity for community centers programming to be involved, because some smaller community centers can offer ball hockey. Some, depending on where they're located, cannot. I guess for the vision that I see is that there'll be opportunities for people to play, for leagues to develop, and it's not just going to be elite, but it's going to be a sport that you can play the whole year. It's no longer going to be wait until the ice comes out and the leftover time, you know? I don't know if that answers your question. I mean, I think it just provides opportunity.
No, it does. And I think that's what I, you know, over the course of this conversation want to highlight is like, how might this work in a community, and how could you guys all work with the residents to make this more of a holistic, like lovely addition instead of a disruption? So,
oh, absolutely. And within that, like, I mean, I can speak, I have family that live in that area, and it's not everybody is against this facility.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm just trying to understand the issue as I do all issues. So thank you so much for your candidness. I really appreciate it.
All right, Sarah, we've got another question for you from Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Thank you, Your Worship. Hi, Sarah. I'm actually glad to see you or Gary speaking about this tonight. I'm no ball hockey expert. I haven't followed it much, but I know that it is growing in popularity. I'm just curious that the city was given a ball hockey rink just outside of TD Station a couple of years ago. And I don't see that it gets utilized a lot, but when I do see it get utilized, it doesn't look like there's a lot of spectators around. So I guess I'm trying to, why is that not busy or busier? And I'm trying to understand the business model of building two of these on the west side away from, you know, more recreation. I just having a hard time grasping that.
Well, what I can speak to is that was a lovely gift from the Memorial Cup. If you looked at the original plans, it would have allowed to be large enough to actually host adult games. But as things came closer and closer, it became less, and the size decreased, and who's managing it. I thought initially it was the Boys and Girls Club, but I believe now that it is the city that manages it. We never were really told past that. This is different than that, in that the floor, I guess the floor and the let me see here. That, knowing about that rink, what I was told about the Memorial Cup gift of a rink was that that it was happening, but then it just kind of it kind of all changed, and it wasn't used or accessible the way we had hoped that it would be.
Okay, just trying to clarify that for my own personal use there. Thank you.
Okay, Sarah, I think that's it for questions from my team. I thought you did a great job of linking that with ProKids. I liked that. It was something I hadn't thought of at the time as well. And that's, of course, obviously one of our biggest. Go ahead.
Yes, absolutely. I just do have one more thing that I do want to put, and I'll put it in very quick, is just the note that we do have several high-performance athletes and coaches involved with our national teams, and one huge disadvantage is the inability to train year-round and to play year-round. Currently, our national teams are being named for Worlds in Switzerland last year. And they're currently being named, and there'll definitely be, I would say, at least one, if not more, athletes be named to the national team, and that can only go up if they're given the opportunity to play more. And we had people play on our Masters World team that won World Championships just this past September. So on a bigger level, it's community is certainly the focus in getting more people to play and giving kids opportunity. But it is kind of neat to be able to show kids that there's people from St. John, myself included, in management that are walking around with gold medals from World Championships.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Where's my list? Okay, Sarah is the last person on my list, so I will ask 3 times if there's anyone else that's on the meeting would like to speak in regards to this application. I'll ask once more if there's anyone else who would like to speak in regards to the application at 1660 Manawaganish Road. Brad McHugh. Okay, Brad.
Hi there. How are you?
I'm well. So, okay, we've got your name here. It's on here. And then do you want to give us your relationship with this application?
So I guess I'm just some of this kind of just been watching from the outside. Obviously, I'm involved with ball hockey. Just got back into it after 10 years. Gary came to me, would be a couple years ago, and we were looking to start another youth ball hockey program. Something I did when I was a kid, and kind of, got away from it. It never really had any sustainability to it. But we started it in the summer of 2020, let's say 2023. So 2022, we had 15 kids that registered for this intro to ball hockey. So it was like 4, 5, and 6-year-olds. So then this past summer, we had it again. We had over 40 kids. So it seems to be growing. And that's just for the 4, 5, and 6-year-old groups. But then we'll obviously have, from over 6 up to teenagers. And just, I stepped away from the sport of ball hockey for 10 years. Married, had a couple kids, and it was just something that I got away from. Obviously, with Nationals being hosted here this year, I decided to get back into it. And I didn't realize how much I missed it and how enjoyable it was. Just the whole community feel, and just the timing of this, being able to come here, riding the momentum of obviously hosting a national tournament here and it being very successful, having many members from the team that went on to play in the Worlds for both men and women. And one thing between like St. John, Fredericton, and Moncton, and obviously, Sarah alluded to, things seem to go there. This is an opportunity, I guess, for the city of St. John to be the first for something and get ahead of it. I can speak to the St. John, Metro Ball Hockey Association. It's been around for decades and it's never had a lull. It's always, if you look at that LBR, through the summer from Sunday night right till Friday night, there's games going all the time. Moncton used to have a really good league. It dropped off. Fredericton, it had a league for a little while, but it's not as strong in the other areas as it is here. And I get the feel of, for the community and what would it be like for something to be there and the apprehension that some of the citizens may have. But we got to look at a lot of areas where, we've put in, some areas put in pickleball courts, or there's tennis courts that are in within communities and things like that. You look at the Stu Hurley rink, it's, on the east side, and it butts up right against, a subdivision. Same with the Bellier when that was in use. You know what I mean? It's just, like I said, for me being a 43-year-old man, haven't played in 10 years, and to see that, to get out there and, have some exercise. But for me, it's more so it's for the kids to see the joys in their face, these times where everything's expensive. Hockey is an extremely expensive sport. But this is an opportunity for kids that, that have that love for that sport of hockey, that may not be able to afford to play hockey because of how expensive it is. Ball hockey is very inexpensive for what it is compared to what it is to play ice hockey. This would give kids that don't have that opportunity, because they don't have the financial backing to be able to go to a facility. I remember as a kid being trucked around through community centers, going to the Carleton Community Center and places like that. Like this, this would give, especially those kids in that community, a place that could be theirs, that they can, they can walk to or bike to and things like that, right? So I just wanted to jump in. I was just kind of, observer, obviously started reading it in the newspaper, had heard rumblings for a little while that this may be coming here, and it just, if me as an adult is excited about it, just imagine what it's going to do for kids. Like, I guess through the national tournament, I get looking at things, and one of the things that popped up on my Facebook profile was, in Edmonton, so the Alberta Ball Hockey Association, they host summer camps, for kids. Like, I know from my example, I have a daughter who plays basketball, and in the summertime she goes to a couple summer camps, for a week at gyms, right? Well, this would be an opportunity for our youth to be able to go to ball hockey camps in the summer at this facility too, right? So
that's good.
Yeah, just wanted to say that.
That's great, Brad. Does anyone have any questions for Brad? Councillor Killen, did you have a question? No. Okay. All right. Okay, that's great feedback for us, Brad. Thank you so much for coming on. Now, I see a hand up, but I have no idea who it is. Hold on.
I'm trying to get it down.
Okay. Oh, that's yours. Yeah, I see yours up. But then I think there's one more up here. So I'll ask again if there's anyone here who would like to speak regarding the application.
I would like to speak.
Okay. Okay. Okay, Sam?
Yeah.
Okay, Sam. You want to, we've got your name then, Sam Burpee. So you want to just give us a little bit of a blurb about what your relationship is with this? Are you a neighbor, or do you own the land? Like,
I wish. No. So my name's Sam Burpee. I am just, I have no relation to the project other than the fact that I am a ball hockey player. I don't live in town. I live in Narrapis. However, I have an extreme passion for recreation and sport. My education background is in recreation and sport. I volunteer probably more than I work in the recreation community. So I just think this is a real opportunity for St. John to kind of monopolize on growing the recreation community in our area. I find, as a younger individual, that not only in recreation sport, but just in general, St. John, a lot of development gets shut down. We are an older city with older infrastructure, and kind of sometimes get set in our ways and are resistant to change, unfortunately, which is kind of disheartening as a younger adult. Part of the reason why I live outside of the city is because of that, is the lack of growth in St. John. I'm not a national level player. I just thoroughly enjoy the sport. The sense of community that it brings is awesome. I've played hockey my entire life, and I've never experienced anything like ball hockey in the sense of community. In terms of children, like, I have friends who live in that neighborhood who have expressed their excitement about the potential for this facility, how great it would be to be able to walk down, bring their kid to watch games or eventually play with that close proximity. And then also, I know the executive director at Carleton Community Center, they recently started up their ball hockey program again, trying to get more interest in the sport. And like, this would just build upon that. And I'm sure there would be interest in working in conjunction with the Carleton Community Center and the program that they already have started. So I just think it would be a great opportunity to continue to grow the sport, continue to grow the community, recreation and community are so intertwined. So to me, I understand the concerns of the citizens, but to me, that is the perfect spot. Like to have a recreational facility, it would be a great opportunity to be in a residential area as opposed to an industrial area. I grew up in Grand Bay. I walked to the rink to play ball hockey and roller hockey and use the soccer field. Like, that is my childhood. That is what I remember. Like, it's ingrained in me, and I just think it would be a huge missed opportunity. Sorry, I'm kind of all over the place, and I don't have a legal background or a political background, so I can't speak to that kind of stuff. And I have no part in the application or anything that was mentioned, so unfortunately I can't speak to any of that. But I can speak to how great our community is, and it's been disheartening hearing everyone say, oh, well, there's going to be rowdiness in the parking lot. I've been playing for 10 plus years, and I've never seen any tailgating. I go and watch multiple games. Sure, there's people talking in the parking lot after a game. You get that at the grocery store too. So yeah, I guess that's it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sam. But before you take off there, we have a question from Councillor Killen for you.
Of course.
Thank you, Sam. I love your enthusiasm, first off, and also for like taking the time to show up here. That's amazing because this is a long night. So I want to ask you something as a person who just is a big supporter. How would you build, and feel free to like tell me to not ask this question. You can absolutely say not answer this, but in your mind, how would you build a bridge between yourself as a ball hockey fan and the community that like lives around it? Because I think we've heard both sides of the coin tonight, and I love, if I could go back in time, I'd ask that to the people who had already sort of been against this. So I'd love to hear your perspective, because maybe there's like a bit of a healing moment, a bit of a bridge we can build to make sure, like you said, we're not tailgating, like we're not doing that. So any other suggestions or thoughts? And you can say no. So
yeah, I mean, I don't know, like I am, like, obviously I'm passionate about it. I'm on the women's board. Like, I want to see the group grow. So I think it would be important to have a discussion with not only the people involved in development, but the people involved in the association, with the residents in the area to discuss their concerns, and see how we can mitigate that. I understand that there's been some frustration maybe with the misunderstanding or lack of communication. Again, I can't speak to that because I'm not involved. I would love to be involved and help create those bridges to help with the barriers, because there is potential for solutions, and we're not going to please everyone. You guys are involved in politics. You obviously understand that, but I think there's potential still for bridges to be crossed and compromises to be made. Again, I can't speak to exactly how that would happen, but I do think there's opportunity for not only the developers, but the association that will be using it to help out with that.
no, I love that. Thank you for your answer.
Thank you so much. Anyone else have a question for Sam? All right, Sam, I guess we'll let you go. Thank you, though, for being here tonight. Really appreciate your perspective on that, and it brings something a little different to the table. So is there anyone here who has not spoken yet who would like to speak?
Hi, I would like to speak.
Oh, come on board, Mr. Crosman.
Hi, guys. How you doing? How you worship?
You're gonna, thank you. You're gonna give us a little bit of a background of what your relationship is with this, correct?
Yes. Well, I'm Gary Crosman. I'm the president of St. John Metro Ball Hockey, the VP of New Brunswick Ball Hockey. I'm one of the guys that reached out to this group to look at this St. John and build a facility here. I know how great St. John is, how the community is, and I just know ball hockey as a kid growing up in the North End, walking down to Somerset Community Center, building relationships that I would never have. I still have those friendships. And then moving on to the Boys and Girls Club. Got asked by friends, played ball hockey one night. That one night led to being at the Boys and Girls Club 5 nights, just playing ball hockey, playing in the gym, doing recreation stuff. And then because of that, I ended up working at the Boys and Girls Club for 17 years because I'm all about the youth, the growth of sport. I'm a big sports guy, ball hockey, lacrosse, you name it. I'm big into the recreation. I volunteer. I'm part of the Pro Kids committee, and only because, well, number one, to be involved, and number two, what Pro Kids does for the community to give these kids an opportunity to play. And ice hockey and all these sports are so expensive. Ball hockey, anybody can play the game. And I mean, from youth to adults, you don't need to know how to skate. You don't need to know how to run. You don't need to know how to hold a stick. And it's all about, at the end of the day, it's a great sport, but community, and it can bring so many opportunities to the city and also to the players. Like, if you would have told me 20 years ago, well, okay, maybe about 40 years ago, that I could do ball hockey in a summer program, I would be like, I'd be all for it. But we never had that. We, went to the community centers and, we played duck, duck, goose and all that stuff. But if you would have told me I would have been able to do a sport, especially ball hockey, all year round, I would be all for it. And again, about opportunity, these kids, the youth, there's so like nationals now are U15, U17, U19. If they get the opportunity to represent your province, it's pretty cool. To play in, against, let's just say you get all the like community centers, Carleton Community Center, the Boys and Girls Club, all in one rink. It's pretty cool. And you build friendships. If it wasn't for the sport of ball hockey, my best friend, I would have met my best friends. And if it wasn't for the sport of ball hockey, I know Sarah mentioned it before, I wouldn't be where I am today. I work at the Lower Beebroke rink because I love sports, and I'll address the tailgating part afterwards. But if you would have told me 20 years ago I'd represent Canada at a World Championship for ball hockey, I'd be saying, yeah, right. I'm playing the NHL. But this past few weeks or whatever, there was 11 of us that just went to Buffalo and won a World Championship, women's and men's. And seeing those kids, their kids, represent the hats, high-fiving, when everybody got home. And I was at the rink the other day, and a couple of the players' kids were high-fiving, and they're like, I can't wait to play ball hockey. These kids are 5, 6 in that group that Brad was talking about. It's yeah. It would mean a lot to the city. It would be I don't want to lose this and Moncton gain another facility where they get everything. And yeah, I don't want to miss this opportunity.
Well, thank you, Mr. Crosman.
And my last thing about the liquor, everyone's calling it a bar. It's not going to be. It's not a bar. A bar is 19 plus, and there's partying and all that stuff. I work at the LBR, and if we close at 10 o'clock, by 10:30, the rink's empty. If it goes to 11:30, the rink's empty. There's no, they're in, they'll have a drink if they do, and they're out. There's no tailgating in the parking lot. And I think Sam said it. There's more people probably gather around at a grocery store talking longer than they do at a hockey rink. So just that was concerning to me, as everybody's talking about the bar and about the tailgating and all that stuff. I've been part of ball hockey for 30 some years at the LBR, and I've never seen tailgating past, the 10, 15 minutes of them chatting after a game, and away they go. hopefully that answers a few things.
All right, well, I do have 2 questions for you apparently. So Councillor Radwan's up first with the question.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you too, Mr. Crosman. Thank you for coming and congratulations on your big win. That's wonderful. Great
Thank
to
you.
hear. I was really just curious to know. I mean, I'm a little out of the loop when it comes to ball hockey. I'm just kind of curious to know how many members do you have?
I
And
can't hear now.
Uh-oh.
Can everybody else hear me?
We can hear you, but I think it's his system. Mr. Crosman, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear.
Okay, Paula, back to you. Councillor Radwan, back to you with your question.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. So, so I'm just wondering, with your association, how many members do you have and what are the age ranges?
The age, we run a youth minor ball hockey. Lancaster minor ball hockey ran it this year in partnership with us. So we start, our groups are U7. So right from age four right up to open age. So we have a U7, U10, U13 and U15 group. And then the adult league starts from 16 plus. And our youth program, like Brad said, we had like 14 kids from U4 to 6. Last year we had over 40 some this year. We went from 250 kids, youth, from 7 to 16, and we were up to about 550 this past summer. It's growing for the youth. It's cheap. Yeah, anybody can play the game. So that's the age ranges right there.
What is the cost to usually play?
Usually for our youth league is about $100, and that usually gets you about 15, 16 games. And the adults is usually between about 150 to 200, and that'll get you 20 games plus playoffs. And that all covers, that's including your insurance.
You mentioned pro kids, but I mean, I end up thinking right away St. John Transit. If Transit's only running until 6:30 at night and it's not running all evening, I do wonder how vulnerable our vulnerable community would get over there. But it's a good point.
Yeah, I can tell you, I was at the rink for the youth program last year, almost every single night, and there's not a whole lot of people that use the city transit. They get picked up or they get drives and all that stuff. So the city transit isn't used a whole lot for the youth program that I noticed. It's mostly a lot of carpooling.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much, Mr. Crosman.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, I've got a question from Councillor Killen as well for you.
Yes.
Thank you, Your Worship. And thank you, Mr. Crossman, for coming tonight. And as a maritime girl, I understand the tailgating thing, right? Like, I absolutely do. So what can you sort of guarantee the public when it comes to mitigating that risk? And I know you already kind of touched on it, but will someone be out there at 10:30 saying, y'all got to go home, like, we're not doing this? Like, what will be in place to make sure that that is actually happening?
100%. That's what will happen.
Okay.
At 10:30 or whatever time the last game is, it's okay. You're not hanging out here.
Right.
You've got to go. We do it at the LBR. We do it. It'll be the same thing here. It's not a hangout. So once your game's done, you're gonna, you'll have enough time, and then you leave. So yes, we will be out.
Enforcing
we will
that.
be out enforcing that.
Okay. That's awesome. Thank you for that clarity.
You're welcome.
Okay, that looks like that's it for questions for you, and I'll also congratulate you on your win. And thank you for being here this evening.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Right. I'll ask again if there's anyone who has not spoken would like to speak. I'll ask. Okay. Boxcar McNeil, it looks like. Do you want to come forward and give us your name and your relationship with the project?
Yes, how are you this evening?
I'm well.
Thank you for taking some comments here. I'll make it quick. So I got nothing to do with the project directly.
Do you want to give us your name, though?
Oh,
please?
sorry, it's Bill McNeil.
Okay, thank you, Bill.
Yeah, sorry. So I have nothing to do with the project myself personally, but I've been involved with ball hockey. I would have started playing since I was old enough to hold a stick. We found the closest tennis court, basketball court. If there was a gym available, that's what we did. I've been involved with the Metro League since 1986. I would have started there as a player. Since then, I've played up until 2000, 2001. I refereed a little bit, and I've now, since the last 10 to 12 years, been back into the coaching scene. I have been lucky enough to coach a couple of the national teams from here. I was an assistant with Gary this year as well, which was fantastic here in our home city. I think the opportunity that's in front of us is fantastic. Like some of the other speakers talked about, the cost, the ability for anybody to be able to play this game. The coaching that's in this city right now, the talent level that's in the city is just continues to grow. I think Gary had suggested how many people were just at the Worlds. Several of those guys, played on our Masters team this year here at the LBR when we won the Canadian Championship as well, which is fantastic. I know my kids always joke with me and they say, Dad, you're out in the mall, you're out in the public, you seem to know everybody. There's certain people you stop and talk to, and then there's a few people that you just kind of wave to and talk to. I said, yes, so the people that are, possibly my customers in my retail career, people that I've went to school with, it's a simple, hey, how are you? Anybody that I've played the game with, whether it's ice hockey, ball hockey, baseball, those conversations are 10 or 15 or 20 sometime minutes. And it brings you back to, you might not have seen that person in 25 years. You have a 5-minute conversation and it's like all the old times are back. Like I say, I've been involved with the Metro League at the LBR since 86. I don't think there's been, to my knowledge, there hasn't been an issue as far as with any of it. We've referred to the tailgating and the things like that. I believe Gary could probably speak more of it than I could. I don't know if there's ever been a police car at the arena outside of being there to watch their son play or watch a game or watch a tournament. So it's well ran. I can speak for the Nationals. It just happened this year. We had teams, women's, men's A, women's teams. We've had Masters, Legends. The rink, the last game was at 10 o'clock. That parking lot was empty at 10:15, 10:30. And the amount of people that were there a half hour before that, the parking lot was full. So there's tons of, fans for it. I know Councillor Stewart had mentioned earlier about the rink at the Harbor Station not having a lot of use. I can't speak for that, but I can sure, if you drive by that LBR anytime in the summer, like Brad said, between Sunday and Friday, that rink is, the parking lot's full of cars. It's emptied out pretty quickly after. And the amount of people that go to those games to watch, I mean, my father's 85 years old. I don't know if he misses a day between the Sunday and the Friday, year after year. And there's many other people in that same ballpark as him so as previously mentioned, losing an opportunity like this to, a place like a Moncton or a Fredericton would definitely, hurt us. But at the same time, one of the councillors had mentioned earlier, how do we think we could repair some of the conversation with some of the people that are opposed to this? I think once this facility was up and running, 90% of the people that opposed it originally will love it. They'll realize that, this is not, a facility from a party standpoint. It's totally ball hockey. And when they see the youth and the excitement and where this game is gone, like I say, since 86, it's been amazing. I would love to see where this would be in another 10 to 12 years if we were able to have this facility at this time.
All right. Anyone have any questions for Mr. McNeil? No questions. Appreciate you coming forward this evening. Now, before we go on, because I see another hand up there, I'm going to ask for a recess because I know some of my team is would like a recess. So I'm going to ask this clerk, what's the process now? Do I need a motion for that?
Your worship, yes, I would ask for a motion and it just has to specify the exact amount of time for this recess. So for instance, 5 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever council feels is appropriate.
Councillor Hickey and Councillor Stewart, can we do a recess for 5 minutes? Are we 10? I have to negotiate with you. 6 minutes. Sorry.
Middle, yeah.
Thank you. All right, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. See you back here in 5.
Now, Your Worship, just a thought before we're back in session
Yes.
officially. I know it's harder to control in the virtual environment that we have, but usually on a public hearing, we remind the listeners that if you have something new to bring to the table, please feel free.
Okay.
You know, I certainly understand that the ball hockey community thinks a ball hockey facility is a good idea. I don't think unless they have a new angle to bring, I don't know if we need to hear from another member of the ball hockey community. Does that make sense?
I'll ask if anyone has anything new to add.
Thank you.
I will say that. I mean, I'll try. City Clerk, are you back? I don't know if I can't see everyone. I've got, here we go.
I'm here, Your Worship. Did you hear my voice?
Yep, I do. I hear you now. So I don't know. Are we all here? You see us all? Views. I'm on the, large
A lot of
camera.
cameras are still off.
Okay.
In the chat, I will tell you, it shows that my camera's off, but I can't seem to turn it on or off, and I'm seeing myself. So anyway, I can't seem to do anything more than what I've done, but I'm here. I've been here the whole time. So, but I'm having technical problems, I think.
I have the large gallery on. I only see 6 of us, 6 counselors, so. All right, City Clerk, are we all back?
Your Worship, I recommend we just do a roll call because
Okay.
this is a public hearing. We don't want to miss anyone. So I have the mayor. I see the deputy. Councillor Harris is here. Councillor Sullivan. Councillor Norton, are you here?
I am, Common Clerk.
Okay. Councillor Killen, are you back?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay. Councillor Lowe, I see you. Councillor Hickey, I see you. Councillor Ogden, are you back?
Yep. Councillor Ogden.
We got confirmation, okay. Councillor Rodwan already spoke, and I see Councillor Stewart, so I have everyone.
Did you get me?
Yep. Yes, we did.
You sound like the friendly
Full
giant.
council's back.
All right, thank you. All right, so do I need a motion to resume the meeting? Councillor Sullivan, Councillor Hickey, all in favor? Okay, motion carried. So if there's anyone here who hasn't spoken yet and has anything additional to offer, can you please click on your camera so I can see you? Hello. David, is it? Alec?
I'm using someone else's phone because my phone actually died because this went on too long.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my name is Stephen Byers.
Right, Stephen.
Yep. So I live on Island View Drive. I'm the husband of one of the previous speakers, Rania Malik. I wasn't really planning to speak today. I just feel like if I don't say a couple of points that I thought of that are new, that I may regret further on. So As you have heard, like the land was previously owned by my mother and father-in-law, and we did try to sell this as a residential build, and that was kind of what we were promised. Fell through. That's besides the point. So the new information I have is really kind of about communication. So as you guys heard, there was the in-person consultation with Mr. Barriere, which I did appreciate, even though he only called one person in the neighborhood, and it was only on 6 hours notice, and I know they had to stay late. I appreciated it. When we were talking to them at that meeting, you know, we had expressed all of our concerns to him, and as was mentioned, it was kind of like, we might do this, we're going to try to do that. But one of the things he did say he would do was if members of our community could reach out, and he told us to reach out to real estate agents that we know, if we could find any other land, which I believe he said he saw, you know, 12 sites already in St. John, and the Manawagonish property was his second choice, but he couldn't really elaborate on what any of the other locations were. But he said if we could get a real estate agent that would find locations before this meeting today, that they would look at them, and in good faith, you know, they would try to find a better option. One of the other previous speakers, Denise, did find a real estate agent. I believe his name was Ron Young with Exit, that found multiple properties in the city that, you know, fit what they said their specifications were, which was 3 to 4 acres. And, you know, residential, light industrial, whichever. And when Denise got that real estate agent to reach out to Mr. Barriere, they said they would not entertain any talks because they were already engaged with the location. So I feel like that was kind of done in bad faith on their side. You know, if people found other locations that would work better, that could work for everyone, that would be great. And I just want to say, like, in general, I feel like, you know, everyone's trying to paint everyone in a bad light. You know, I have nothing against Mr. Barriere. I have nothing against any of the ball hockey people. No one in our community does. We all want St. John to grow. We would all love ball hockey to come to our town. I was a poor kid from the North End, okay? I grew up and I put myself through university. I'm a pharmacist now. And when I was a kid, you know, I went to the Carleton Community Center. I did martial arts there. I played ball hockey there. You know, I understand the importance, especially for children of lower economic status like myself. I understand the importance of these facilities, okay? But I just feel like, you know, there is better places for it in town, but they're not willing to entertain those. And the threat that's being thrown around that, you know, if we don't do it here at this exact location, they're going to go to a different city. Well, that's not what Mr. Barriere said to us at the meeting. They said, you know, they would entertain at other locations. They would like to look at other locations. So, you know, if this doesn't pass tonight, which I hope it doesn't, but I'm being realistic. I think it's probably going to, you know, I think Mr. Barriere would still keep looking here. Maybe they could find a better location. You know, I understand there's these millions of dollars that are going to come to our city, but they're going to come to our city no matter where they build. You know, there's going to be 30 part-time to full-time jobs no matter where they build. No matter where they build, you know, there is going to be economic growth. Maybe it would be better to build it closer to things like restaurants and hotels because, you know, and transportation, you know, that is the main point I wanted to make. The other one I wanted to make, which I kind of already alluded to, is a lot of the answers we got from them were kind of thinly veiled threats. Like they said, you know, if we don't build this here, then there's going to be a 4-story, 70 to 90 unit apartment building. That will be louder. There will be more light. There will be more traffic. So go with this lesser evil. But everyone in our community is much happier to have people living here. Like, there is a housing crisis. Go down next to any, you know, on and off ramp of the highway. You might see a tent right now because there's homeless people. There's no affordable housing in the city. You know, I would much rather have 70 to 90 families living 3 houses down from me than, you know, year-round noise till 11 o'clock at night, slap shots and hooting and hollering. You know, I'm a young man. I'm 39. I probably bring the average population age of my neighborhood down 20 years. You know, it's not as many kids here as they think are going to walk in and play, right? I guess that's all I really have to say. I just felt like if I didn't say my piece, I would regret it. We're not all against this in general in the city. We want it. You know, I just think there's better places, and I think they might be open to entertaining those places.
All right, well, thank you for your voice this evening. Don't see any questions for you, so I'll ask right now.
Sorry, Your Worship. I'd
Counselor
like to-
Killen,
Yeah, sorry.
you have your hand up? Yeah.
Yes, I do. Sorry, Kelly,
Okay.
would you mind
Yep.
coming back? Okay, so I'd ask the same question of you as I did the previous proponent who was in favor. What could we do to build a bridge between you all and the folks who may want to create this facility here?
Well, I think the first thing to really build a relationship is to have actual open, honest communication. Not wait till the last minute to have communication with us and give us no time to really have a say. And the previous speaker, Mr. Crossman, who came to all the houses around here, he came, I answered the door, and we spoke. And I'm the person that he told, this isn't set in stone. We're looking for community engagement. We want everyone on board. If we can't get the community on board, it's probably not going to happen. Right. So that wasn't really a truth. And the truth that they would entertain other options, wasn't a truth. I feel like me and Mr. Barriere, we're both young professional men. Like, we could have conversations. I just don't think they want to have them, which is why I don't think they reached out before the PAC meeting, because they knew what the consensus was. And, as they mentioned in the last meeting, and a lot of people are mentioning online, there's a lot of gray power in our community here, right? It's hard to convince a lot of these people who might not use the facility how it's going to make it better for them. So
right.
I would like to have that conversation with him one-on-one. I just don't know if they're open for honest conversation.
I appreciate that feedback. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you, Counselor. Okay. So Counselor Killen, I'll get you to put your hand down as well. And then, is there anyone else who would like to speak that has something to contribute that has not been said? Karen, you've had an opportunity to speak. It's only one opportunity for everybody to speak. So I'll ask again. Is there anyone else who has not spoken and has something additional to offer than what we've heard already? I'll ask for the third time if there's anyone who would like to speak who has not spoken and has something additional to offer. I see a hand up. I don't know why. I can't see who. If anybody has their hand up. Okay, good. All right. So I am going to close the public hearing, and I'm going to ask my team if anyone has any questions for staff. Mr. Reed is the presenter this evening, and he is here to answer your questions. And if we have you have a question for Mr. Reed there, Deputy?
Yes, thank you, Worship. So, Mr. Reed, if we were to go through first and second on this, could we put a stipulation? I mean, the last speaker just talked about other locations that would be better and the willingness of the proponent to look at those other locations. I mean, does that, if we go through first and second, does that eliminate that possibility?
Your Worship, through you to the councillor, there is no first or second or third reading where this is a Section 39 amendment. At the close of the hearing, there's a recommendation put forth from the committee and staff to rescind the conditions and adopt a new set of revised conditions. So,
thank you.
Yeah, okay, you're right. Thank you.
Councillor Hickey?
Your Worship, I believe Councillor Radwan had her hand up.
Oh, sorry. Councillor Radwan, you're just a little dot on the top of my screen. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't know what's happening, but yes, thank you. Yes, through you to Mr. Reed. So the one thing that I'm really feeling uncomfortable about is sound barrier. And Mr. Barrio kind of talked about that he would put some barrier there. I know there's mature trees. I already looked at it. Is there any way to, to me, because it is primarily, it's not all residential, let's be honest. So there's a lot of commercial things around there. There's a hotel, there's you know, pumpkin patches down the road. You've got the cemetery there. You've got animal rescue in another spot, like an animal hospital. But most of it is residential. So when I think about it, I kind of think if you're going to put something like this in there, it almost needs to be like self-contained. So is there anything that we're able to do to stipulate so that there is enough sound barrier there? And I don't think it'll help the Tingleys across the street, but other than maybe the building will create a soundproof barrier for them, but that rink and the parking lot, I don't know. I'm just not, is there anything that we're able to do that way?
Your worship, through you to the councillor, actually condition F of the recommended section 59 conditions states that sound mitigation measures subject to the approval of the development officer be constructed along the northeastern property boundary from the northeastern building corner to the northeastern corner of the property adjacent to PID 00397-208. And that would be that property to the northeast that would be essentially adjacent to the outdoor rink that would likely receive the most impact from sound. So we do have a condition in there to mitigate sound mitigation with respect to the residents over along Coronation Avenue. They're adjacent to the building, and that is where the interior ball hockey surface is. So the fact that that surface is in the building would mitigate the sound from that. So our condition is in there. It really seeks to mitigate the impacts on that adjacent residence to the northeast.
And honestly, I mean, you guys obviously know I read every letter of the packet. I know that's there, but is there, I know I'm so thorough, but is there any way to make it more specific? Because I think it can be either trees or it could be a soundproof wall. So is there, like, I mean, how can, because I don't think the trees that are there is enough, to be honest. I love the mature trees, and you could always put in more. But with the slash of the hockey stick and the balls hitting up against the side, I don't know that trees are going to be enough. So is there any way to ensure that, like, I think a soundproof wall is where it should be?
Your worship, through you to the councillor, I think if we're looking for a bit more specificity, a bit more specifics on this particular condition, I think my recommendation would be to amend that condition to have the proponent prepare a sound mitigation study by a qualified professional to determine the sound impacts and an acceptable barrier design to mitigate any noise on that adjacent property.
I would absolutely love to make that amendment if I could have a seconder on it.
Well, I don't have a motion on the floor yet, so I don't know. So I guess what I would need to do is, hold on here, I've got number 2. Where's Paul, your number, Councillor Radwan, you're number 1. I've got a second hand up here somewhere.
David Hickey's up there too.
You've got Councillor Norton ahead of me, your worship, and then
Councillor Norton,
and then me.
I don't see you, but go ahead.
Thank you, your worship. Thank you to Mr. Reed for that. I'm looking for a way. I think the community is certainly in favor of the recreation economy within our community and understands well the benefits. We've heard a number of times proponents for the project. In fact, I wasn't expecting anything different from anybody that plays ball hockey other than pro ball hockey. That's just, I mean, that is fairly predictable. What I do resonate with are the concerns of the host community. It's the host community that is are the ones that are going to be who've been there and they're well established. We have a responsibility to empower those neighborhoods, a responsibility to listen to their concerns, and I'm looking for a way to bridge that divide. And I think Mr. Reed has said something that that has certainly piqued my attention in terms of more specific. We can't even get that word out tonight, Mark. More specific sound mitigation as it relates to the activity that's going on there. I go back to some of the other some of the other things that we've listened to, whether they're more industrial in nature or whether they're more light industrial in nature, and we've done similar things as it relates to sound mitigation. Not too far off, we had sound mitigation studies done at the Lancaster Logistics Park, I believe, Mark, by not only our own but by an outside expert as well. And I know that that's certainly different, and it's comparing apples and oranges. But I guess what I'm trying to do is listen to some of the concerns, and a lot of the concerns that we have are around sound and sound buffering, and I'm hesitant to support this enthusiastically, especially if we give consent to this. I don't believe the proponent afterwards, after hearing concerns from the neighbors, is going to erect any type of sound barrier. I mean, that's either done at the outset, or I don't believe it's going to get done at all. So, if Councillor Radwan is considering at some point, making a motion to that effect, I would certainly endorse that. I also am supportive of further developing our suite of recreation, opportunities within the community. So I see this as a good opportunity, but one in which we've got to make the host community comfortable with the development that's going to happen.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Here's my question to the clerk then. We need to get a motion on the floor and put this extra section 59 in. Is that what we're going to do here, City Clerk?
Well,
we should have
there's
something
a
on the
couple
floor for
ways,
debate anyway.
Right. The councillor that proposed an amendment to the written motion could just put forward a motion with the aspect that she would like in it. We need very clear wording, though, for what that is. Or somebody could move and second the written motion, and then an amendment could be made. So there's two different ways you could do it. If Councillor Radwan wants to put forward a motion with that change that she spoke about, then she can do that. If she gets a seconder, you would vote on that. But I would ask that they spell out very carefully what that wording is in the resolution.
Okay, so I guess what I'll ask then is, does someone want to put a motion on the floor and we'll do an amendment to the motion? Or
we just get a couple more staff questions in first, Your Worship, if you don't mind, and then I just had a question specific to the motion before it gets on the floor, if that's okay.
Okay, well, hold on for a second because I'm getting into debate here. So if people have a question for staff, then we can do the questions for staff. But if we're going to get into debate, I'd like to get the motion on the floor.
I've got a question for staff.
All right, then you ask your question for staff.
Thanks, Your Worship. Specificity, I'll start with that.
We know you know how to say it there, Councillor Hickey.
Just through you to Mark. Mark, any insight? And I know we chatted about this, but just to have the conversation here as well. Any insight around what our conversations were specific to real estate assets within City Hall that might support an operation like this? Like, I guess I wouldn't want to turn these guys to these folks to the dire straits of the MLS system right now. There's not a massive amount like this on the market. I wouldn't want that to happen, but certainly we have assets at within City Hall that could be worthwhile. My only thought is to include some kind of stipulation in this conversation that creates a dialogue between our real estate team and these developers to see if there's any sites that may be appropriate as well within our ownership.
Yes, I guess, Your Worship, through you to the councillor, we could encourage, some discussion between the proponent and our real estate service area. But I think, one of the challenges that we've come up with in past real estate exercises here at the city is you know, we don't have a lot of surplus land that checks a lot of these boxes. You know, there's one site that, you know, may come to mind is the Belly Arena. But again, that's an existing legacy facility that might need, you know, quite a bit of upgrades and, you know, be more than their 2 to 3 million cost to get it functional for their use, as opposed to a purpose-built facility. But, you know, we could encourage them to have a, you know, a discussion with real estate to see if there's any other sites out there. But, you know, from what I'm hearing from the proponent tonight, they have done quite a bit of due diligence looking at sites here in the St. John area.
Mr. Reid. Councillor Sullivan, were you going to put the motion on the floor?
I'm happy to try, with a little bit of help from Mr. Reid. I noticed him typing down there in the corner. I noticed he does that so well at PAC. I would be happy to move the PAC recommended motion, which is staff with the PAC changes, along with changes to the wording in F, so that the sound mitigation measures would be preceded by a study at the developer's expense. And now I'm staring at the Mr. Reid box to see if that's specific enough.
Yes, Your Worship, through you to the councillor, I have been typing here as I do sometimes at PAC when we're, you know, making edits to motions such as this. I do have something roughly drafted, so
okay.
I don't know if there's another question or more debate I can.
So perhaps
Well, let's get a seconder on that one then.
if seconder, I can speak to it, and that'll open up the floor for questions and comment.
Yeah, I can do that, Mayor.
Okay, sounds good. So I've got a seconder on it.
Uh,
Okay,
uh,
so.
So
am
I'll speak to the motion, Your Worship.
Okay, go ahead.
And the reason I do feel comfortable bringing the motion forward, certainly I heard the concerns of the neighbors. I think to a great extent, tightening the sound section in F, but it's still subject to the approval of the development officer to make sure that that's done right. An illumination plan in D also has to be submitted for the approval of the development officer. So I think that the lighting and the sound are going to be taken care of. With regards to the bar, I certainly have experience in curling clubs and my sailing venues that would be very similar. They would have a bar that's also a canteen, and would service folks after they participate in the sport. And I guess I would offer this to the neighbors and to council for consideration. The fact that the facility has a liquor license and a bar reduces or eliminates tailgating, because if people are bringing their own alcohol into the parking lot, the facility can lose their liquor license. So the fact that there's an internal bar actually is a good thing, because that means if folks want to have a beverage after their game, they have to go inside in order to get it. And there is good reason for the folks who run the facility to make sure that happens. And I understand, you know, we don't have this sort of facility in St. John, and it's new. And so there are some unknowns, which is why staff and PAC has come up with the suite of constraints and things that have to happen and approvals before it can go forward that we do. But this so supports recreation in St. John. If, you know, please, people out there, come bring your own money and open recreational facilities in St. John that the city doesn't have to pay for. Everything, I think the ball hockey folks, we may have had a few more than we needed to hear, but I do accept the point that ball hockey is cheap for people to get into. It is a good sport. We have expertise in St. John that there isn't around the province of New Brunswick, and I believe you build on your strengths. We definitely, Councillor Norton made some very good points that we need to have heard the neighbors and make sure that Our development officers, as these things come in, that they're giving a good hard look to make sure that what we've heard tonight is looked after when those approvals come through. So I guess I'll stop there to allow others to speak. Thanks, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Sullivan. Over to you, Councillor Stewart.
Thank you, Your Worship. I agree with Gary on a lot of, or Councillor Sullivan with a lot of that. And I've been, veteran of the bar business for 30 years. When people hear the word bar, there's a connotation that there's going to be, rowdiness and all the rest of it. But I've curled, I've played ball in fields, we've gone outside, we've tailgated, if you will. But it's, the fact that there's a place that somebody can have a beer afterwards and unwind is going to lessen the possibility they're going to be outside doing that. That's one thing. But I want to ask you, Mr. Reid, do you remember when the proposed pickleball courts came up, and the sound, I think, was a big issue there, because there's houses that back right onto that court, literally. And I'm looking at a picture right now. There's got to be 50 or 60 people on that court, and I'm thinking that's a lot of noise right there. But I can see all the way around the fencing that there's lots of, barrier there. Do you remember what the requirements were when we put that in there? Can we do something like that over there?
Your Worship, through you to the councillor, I didn't have any specific involvement in that facility, so
okay.
I don't know offhand. I could probably, check with some of our operations folks in recreation. But as I mentioned earlier, what I would propose would be an amendment to Condition F, that we would get some form of a sound engineering study to look at some form of physical mitigation measures along the boundary with that house to the northeast that I think would be the impacted property by the outdoor surface.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I would be okay with that. Because again, I'm looking at this picture and I know there's a lot of noise right there on those pickleball courts. And I think everybody should take a second and check that out.
All right. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Harris, over to you.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is insane. This is just very onerous. I can't believe that we're talking about doing sound mitigation studies on this. I mean, I get why we did it on logistics. I'm the one who put forward that 10-year number on that. I think we should do maybe some sound monitoring, and should it reach a certain decibel, then we go back and request that the developer do improve its mitigation. But to get into sound studies and all this stuff, it's basically saying to anybody else who may want to come here and build recreation to bug off and go to Moncton or Fredericton, where they're not going to do this, because this is out of the norm of what happens with recreational facilities. I don't think we've even ever done it as a city when we put 3/4 baseball fields in Forest Hills. It's unnecessarily onerous. I would like to see the motion separated so that we can approve the staff recommendation and then vote on the extras that are being asked for here, because I don't think it's necessary one bit.
Thank you, Councillor. I'll finish. Is there anybody else that wants to talk? And then we'll have to figure out what we're doing with this. Are we separating? Councillor Radwan, back.
You've got Councillor Radwan, Your Worship.
I see that. Councillor Radwan, back to you.
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor. I didn't know if we were ready for debate, but it seems like we are. So, I mean, I think that under circumstances, for example, if something was added in the, in front of where the field house is, or an extension onto that, if it's not close to houses, this is a little bit different than, if you have houses right on the back end. Literally, the way that this site looks, there's houses right in back of it, like within a few feet probably away from where they're going to end up building this. And that can have an impact on quality of life. Now, the reason why I think that, because it is there, you just have to make sure that it's kind of on its own, right? So that's what this sort of soundproofing will do for that, in my opinion. I love the idea, and thank you, Renaud, for wanting to invest in St. John. I think it's great. I'm with Councillor Sullivan. I'm cheering on the fact that the city is not going to be paying for this recreation facility, and ball hockey is very popular. I think that, I think back to when I was a child, and even though we lived always on the east side, I felt like I grew up in Milledgeville, and my aunt's house was a few streets away on Donaldson Street. And so we would go and grab our skates and put them over our shoulders, and we would just walk to the Gorman Arena. And to be able to do that whenever we wanted to, and when it was time to go skating, was really, really great as a youth, right? So, I mean, I think it can be a real great benefit to the community, but it has to be done right. So anyway, so that's how I feel about it. And, I appreciate everybody's input, but, if it was more in, a community, around a community center, if it was right next to Carleton Community Center or something where there's not a lot of houses, this would be a bit of a different conversation, I think. But there's houses right there.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. I have a question, Mr. Reid. I mean, I too, I don't want to make this onerous, but would that be satisfactory to do the sound monitoring versus, to do the study? What would your opinion on that be? I mean, it sounded like when we heard from the actual developer of the courts, what are they called, rinks, that there's going to be, it would be state of the art, and it would have a lot of that aspect of it included in the new design. So,
Your Worship, I think our challenge on that would be is that, acoustical studies and sound studies aren't something that we have expertise in the city. So, if we did want to have a further amended motion that the first step be an acoustical study, we could go that route, and then, should there be mitigation measures required on that closest receptor, then those be developed. But I think in any event, we would want that condition to state that the city and proponent select a qualified firm, so that the city has some satisfaction that the neighborhood's interests are being protected by having a qualified consultant do the study.
all right, Councillor Harris, or Councillor Hickey.
Thanks, Your Worship. I didn't want that point to go unchallenged. Like, we are all eager around this table to support recreation, to support ball hockey. We're keen to support it. But coming up with a common ground solution that recognizes that people in this neighborhood have lived there for 50 years and have not seen this kind of development before, seeking to find a common ground solution that works for both parties is not overly onerous. It's our job. So I do take issue with that, and I don't like that point was left unchallenged.
Yeah, I don't think that was the intention of that. Councillor Killen, over to you.
Thank you, David, for driving home what I've been saying all night with regards to this, because I really think there is a bridge here. There's a lot of trees surrounding this property. That is a noise mitigator. I really do think there's a lot of lack in communication between the two parties, and that is a very solvable thing. And I don't know what the solution is tonight, honestly, because I think there's more work to be done. So I will leave that to you all to consider as we continue this debate.
Thank you, Councillor. I will note that there's like 13. What we're being asked tonight is to lift a section 59 that was put in 1991. If that section 59 had not been put in, this project would not come to council. They would be good to roll. So we'll lift that, but we'll put in, I think it's like 13, section 59. Some of them include landscaping and would include more trees as well to add to it. So that's what the recommendation is. And then, Mr. Reid, you were going to put in the wording, whatever we needed about sound. Councillor or Deputy Okay, over to you, Deputy.
Thank you, Your Worship. I totally agree with Councillor Hickey on this. I mean, I support recreation 100%, and I like ball hockey, and I think it's a good project. I don't think it's in the best location, but I think we try to mitigate that, and that's what we're here to do. And I fully support Councillor Radwan's, amendment. I think that's the least we can do. I think I don't like the idea that people are saying, if it doesn't come here, it'll go to Moncton or Fredericton. My understanding was St. John, Moncton, and Fredericton were all going to start up ball hockey things like this under the same owner. So I think we need to be cognizant of the fact that there is some, impacts to this, to the neighborhood, and we need to mitigate those. That's our job. And I don't think that it's, something that we should overlook. So, so long as we keep that in mind, I mean, I can support it, but I still don't think that it's the greatest spot in St. John. I can think of other spots that it would be much more successful, but thank you, Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Sullivan, back to you. And then I think that's it for the round. I think everybody's had their.
Thanks, Your Worship. I don't know. Just stalling until Mr. Reid comes with the wording, but I think I would add. I think it's been a very good discussion, and I think on its face, if the communication, and I do think there was a failure or at least a weakness in communication, with regards to what ball hockey is, the amount of sound and so that the neighborhood would feel more comfortable with what the proposal is, but they're not. So I think that's where, for me, why I agreed with Councillor Radwan. I think, and that would be the only piece. The other thing I know about sports communities, and I didn't mention this earlier, but with transit and things, any hockey team, now they're ice hockey, but if somebody needed a ride, they called the coach got a hold of a parent. I mean, it's one of those communities of good people, and they want to be good neighbors. Sports teams have kind of built-in values that support each other, and so I think this will be a good addition to St. John and to the neighborhood, but we need to make sure that the neighborhood feels comfortable as it gets built, and that's through the mitigation techniques that are listed in the new Section 59 conditions. So with F, Mr. Reid, are you handy with proposed wording that spells out what Councillor Radwan and I were suggesting?
Folks, I'm just doing a final edit.
You need me to talk for another 60 seconds?
No.
Okay, so Your Worship, through you to the council, I'd propose this revised wording for condition F, that the proponent at their sole expense engage a qualified engineering firm selected jointly by the city and proponent to conduct a post-construction sound monitoring study once the facility is operational and determine if sound mitigation measures are warranted. Should mitigation measures be warranted based on the study, that these measures be implemented at the proponent's expense, subject to the approval of the development officer along the northeastern property boundary from the northeastern building corner to the northeastern corner of the property adjacent to PID 00397-208. And that would be that back northeast corner of the property adjacent to the outdoor ball hockey pad.
Yeah, I'm good with that as
Perfect.
the wording for my motion.
All right, so we've got the the motion, the third reading in entirety, and that's the no, that's not it, sorry, to rescind the previous 59s. And then we'll add our own 59s in as well. We're going to approve the 59s after that. So on the first motion, City Clerk, are you ready? Are we good? I'm going to call the question.
We are. I just wanted to remind the council there are two motions here. Number one, rescind the section 39s that currently exist. And then second motion, approve section 59, and that would be with the new wording provided by Mr. Reed.
Okay, hang on for 1 second. My thing just died here on my computer. All right, so I'm going to call the question. All in favor?
Move to rescind, your worship.
Move to rescind. Oh, sorry, move to rescind. Move to rescind the previous 59 condition. On the question, all in favor? Opposed? Oh, no opposed. Okay, so motion is carried.
Councillor Lowe might not have been on the screen. I think he may have been opposed.
Councillor Lowe, where are you?
I was against.
Okay, Councillor Lowe's registering as opposed. Okay.
And I'll make that motion that I had made earlier with the amendments, your worship.
Okay, and then the next motion that we have would be third reading by title. Do you have to read that first one, City Clerk? Third reading in entirety? No, you're going to read the second one?
No, but we do need a seconder on this.
Okay, third reading by title. We need a seconder. Councillor Stewart on the question. All in favor?
Your worship, this is approval of
sorry.
section 59.
Nice. I've got the wrong lingo here. To approve,
Yeah.
the motion is to
We're on
approve.
9.2. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I keep reading the next one down. To approve the section 59s that we've just added. That are all added. Okay, so I have a mover, I have a seconder on the question. All in favor? Opposed? Councillor Harris and Councillor Lowe opposing. Motion carried. Okay. Perfect. Next item, City Clerk.
Thank you, your worship. We did skip one item earlier. It was item 7.1, and that's
Right.
for a proclamation on
We'll
Green
read
Sports
that.
Day.
Maybe
October
somebody could
6th.
get our city manager back to let him know that he can come back in.
I will do that, your worship.
Thank you. The proclamation, whereas the city of St. John has recognized climate change as an urgent and immediate threat and is committed to a better future by fighting climate change through the climate change action plans, and we have two. And whereas the sports sector has historically been recognized as a venue for improving public health, accelerating the local economy, and facilitating social change in St. John, and has tremendous potential to contribute to the city's climate goals. And whereas Green Sports Day is an opportunity to celebrate progress towards achieving the low emissions goals of the United Nations Sports for Climate Change Action Framework, reaching waste reduction targets, encouraging continued sustainability efforts, and increasing equitable opportunities for all St. John citizens to play sports in a clean and safe environment. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Donna Node Reardon of St. John, do hereby proclaim this Friday, October 6th, 2023, as Green Sports Day in the city of St. John. Well, that was perfect to follow 9.2. Next item, City Clerk.
Next item is 10.1 under consideration of bylaws, and this is for traffic bylaw amendments, Sydney Street, Broadview Avenue to Vulcan Street.
All right, just getting this up in my computer here. Okay, and I'm passing this one for the intro over to Commissioner Hugenholtz.
Good evening, Your Worship and members of council. We're before you this evening for a third reading of an amendment to the traffic bylaw. And essentially, this is to restrict parking on Sydney Street between Broadview and Vulcan Street. And this is associated with the reconstruction of Sydney Street that also permits the extension of Harbor Passage down to Tin Can Beach. So council would have endorsed first and second reading back in November 22. And we are before you here this evening to ask for third reading to enact this, as the contractor is presently mobilized on site and construction is well underway. With that, Your Worship, I'll turn it back over to you for the readings.
Okay, thank you. Anyone have any questions for the commissioner? Okay, Councillor Ogden? Did you have a question? Okay, all right, city clerk, can you read out?
I just wanted to pass the motion, Donna, that's all.
Oh, okay. I'll use you then. We've got two motions for this one. Third reading by entirety. I've got a mover on that. Councillor Ogden. I'll take a seconder on it. Councillor Lowe on the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Bear with me, Your Worship. I do have to
Yes.
read this one in its entirety. A bylaw to amend a bylaw respecting the traffic on streets in the city of St. John. A bylaw of the city of St. John entitled A Bylaw Respecting Traffic on the Streets of the City of St. John, bylaw MV 10.1 and amendments thereto, enacted on the 7th day of October 2019, is hereby amended as follows. Schedule A1, parking for specific times 8 until 5, is amended by deleting the following words under the following headings. Sydney Street on both sides limits St. Andrews Street to Vulcan, time 2 hours. Number 2, Schedule A1, parking for specified times 8 a.m. till 5 p.m. is amended by adding the following words under the following headings. Sydney Street, both sides, limits St. Andrews Street to Broadview Avenue, 2-hour time limit. Number 3, Schedule B, no parking anytime is amended by adding the following words under the following headings. Street, Sydney Street, side both limit Broadview Avenue to Vulcan Street. Number 4, Schedule G, alternate side parking is amended by deleting the following words under the following headings. Street, Sydney Street limit Princess Street to end. Number 5, Schedule G, alternate side parking is amended by adding the following words under the following headings. Street, Sydney Street limits Princess Street to Broadview Avenue. Street, Sydney Street limit Vulcan Street to end. Number 6, Schedule N, streets for residential zone parking permits is amended by deleting the following words under the following headings. Zone E, street, Sydney Street, side, both sides, limits Duke Street to Vulcan. And number 7, Schedule N, streets for residential zone parking permits is amended by adding the following words under the following headings. Zone E, street, Sydney Street, side, both limits Duke Street to Broadview Avenue. And then just one more motion, Your Worship, after this third reading by title.
Third reading by title. I'll take a mover and a seconder on that. Councillor Norton and Councillor Stewart on the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Next. Uh-oh. Hang on here. Ugh. Yeah,
Everything seems to be working, Your Worship.
okay. So we called the question.
Yep, yep.
Okay, next item.
So next item is 12.1, and this is the Chief Administrative Officer's update on select catalytic projects and advocacy.
Over to you, Mr. McGovern.
Good evening, Your Worship, members of council. For the catalytic projects update, I'll provide a brief update on the 3 infrastructure projects and touch on an advocacy projects. I'll start first with overview of the three of council's catalytic infrastructure projects. So Fundiki, Market Slip public space. Significant progress continues to be made with respect to the construction of the new public space at Market Slip. Work continues on the granite tidal steps, the pieces that will form the amphitheater and the stairs down into the harbor. The first tier is now done, and contractor is beginning work on the second tier and getting starting to get above the tidal watermark, which is good for this time of year. Construction of the ice rink is complete and the mechanical and electrical work continues. Asphalt work for the construction of the new section of Harbor Passage along the waterfront is completed, and the special surface coating that we're accustomed to seeing along Harbor Passage will be done in the spring of the year. Work continues as well on the stage and the accessible washrooms. Patios are now closed along the boardwalk until the remaining foundation work and the patio surfaces are completed, which will allow for the new glass enclosures to be installed, and they're scheduled to arrive in mid-November. So the project continues on schedule, and all public spaces are still planned to be substantially completed by the end of this year. With respect to the development, the developer started the underground servicing work in the month of September in preparation for the construction of their new building. And construction is getting closer, and the developer is looking to commence the foundation work this fall. With respect to the Central Peninsula School and the North End School in particular, the last week there was big news relating to the new North End School that was announced by the province. The former Crescent Valley School property has been selected as the site of the new kindergarten to grade 5 school. The site is located at 84 Rope Walk Road in between the existing Hazen White St. Francis School and the Centennial Schools that will be replaced, and it's adjacent to the YMCA. The province advised that the existing building on the site will be replaced with a modern facility that will accommodate 522 students, and the start of the construction continues to be scheduled for next spring, with the school anticipated to open in September of 2026 for the North End. And the third catalytic construction project to touch on is the new comprehensive recreation facility. So staff, as I previously mentioned, have engaged with the Fundy Region Services Commission on the regional arena needs assessment, as that is a requirement for any provincial funding support for any replacement arenas. So the Fundy Region Service Commission has a scope of work for the study, and they intend to complete the needs assessment this fall. Work to date has assisted with the design and assessing various means of bringing best value to taxpayers as we continue to seek funding from other levels of government for this project, as funding from others will be essential to advance this catalytic project. And switching to an advocacy project, affordable housing, the city team continues to advance council's priority on affordable housing. The update this evening relates to specifically to the Rapid Housing Initiative known as the Barrack Green Residences, a project by Kaleidoscope Social Impact. The project design continues and on-site project work is underway, and the contractor is on site doing demolition work, and that work will continue through to the end of November of 2024, when the creation of 39 affordable housing units is to be completed. In addition to the Rapid Housing Initiative, a major funding application for the Housing Accelerator Fund that was submitted by the city team is working its way through the review process. We had CMHC reps here in the city recently to review some of the items on our project list, and we await word on our $14.5 million application. And recipients of funding are supposed to hear back by the winter of 2023, and funding is to be used within the 3-year time horizon from 2024 to 2026. With that, Your Worship, that concludes my verbal update.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. McGovern? If not, I'll take a motion to receive for information. Councillor Ogden and Councillor Harris on the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Next item, City Clerk.
Next item is 13.1, and this is from the Finance Committee, Common Council input into 2024 general operating budget.
Over to you, Councillor Sullivan, as our Chair of Finance Committee.
Thanks, Your Worship. I'm here with my teacher hat on to give everybody homework. So in 2 weeks' time, we are going to set time aside at Common Council for all councillors to use their 3 minutes to give Finance Committee and our staff their thoughts on what they would like to see included in our 2024 budget. We do frame it up within our report, and staff will be sending out some reading material so that things we are selecting are within the strategic plan, the 10-year long-term financial plan, or various master plans like Plan SJ, Play SJ, Central Peninsula Neighborhood Plan. My particular choices come from Move SJ, and I'll give you mine now so you have a bit of an example of where you may want to go in 2 weeks to frame up your 3 minutes. Mine's not 3 minutes long. Our financial plan says 3% is our target growth in order to do what we do. 5% is our stretch goal in order to be able to do extras that are laid out in our various plans. Currently, we're looking at 3.35% growth needed for next year to do what we do and to implement pieces of plans that were targeted for 2024. For me personally, I would like to see if we hit the stretch goal of 5%. I wouldn't want to see us take any more in the combination of assessment and tax rate beyond that. I don't want to stress out our ratepayers any more than we already do. But if we have an opportunity with some extra dollars, for my 2 cents, pardon the pun, I'd like to see it go to pay-as-you-go capital. I do worry that committing ourselves to extra payments every year after year after year can lead to deficits. I think we've got plans that cover those things. But if we had a few extra dollars next year, I would love to see us build some complete streets and get some traffic circle roundabouts going that have been sitting in Plan SJ and I've been pining over for several years. So for my 2 cents, hit that stretch goal, follow our plans. But if we do have a few extra dollars, I'd like to see it to go to pay-as-you-go capital to go into those roadworks. Anyway, that's kind of an example. In next meeting in 2 weeks, we'll do a roundtable. Staff will be prepared, and I will be prepared to have my listening ears on, wanting to hear what you have to share with us so that we can take that into our deliberations as Finance Committee as we move forward on budget. And that's my update, Your Worship, and I think it's a receive and file this report.
It is. I'll take a seconder on that. The deputy. Councillor, before I let you go, what will be coming out to us? I know the plans will be coming out to everyone. I think a refresher on the plans will be coming out. What else to support the homework?
So that the council doesn't have to chase them all around. Staff will be sending direct links out to us all.
Perfect.
So that we'll be able to click and find, so we don't have to go digging through. So all of those plans will be at your fingertips.
Okay. Councillor Harris, did you have a question?
Yes, I do, Your Worship. Thank you. Through you to the chair. Will we be getting any sort of indications on what data is missing to make an informed decision on plans that may be out of date, like Plan SJ, with regard to pretty major increases in demographics and population growth? I just wonder, I mean, this is not a criticism, so don't take it the wrong way. I just mean, like, are we getting any insight into, hey, there's assumptions baked into Plan SJ, Move SJ, blah, 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 whatever plan, and we may need to challenge them with new data like X, population growth, you know, here, and here, just so that we can target our understanding.
Yeah, we're luckily that I can tell you that the financial plan is updated. We've updated that, and so all the numbers there are as current as possible. I certainly accept that while newer than older, some of the plans, I would suggest our dashboards, our current dashboards may have more up-to-date information, and staff, even though they're busy and working on many other things, know this is coming, are probably prepared for the questions. So that's the best I could probably offer you at this time, Councillor.
Yep. Councillor Ogden, do you have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to throw it to Gary when you said streets, Gary. I still think we're building a city that's trying to make it efficient for cars to get in and out of here as fast as possible, which means we're not paying attention to the residents. So when we say streets, I wish you'd say sidewalks, because we have some really bad sidewalks in the city.
I think, through you, Your Worship, the councillor, I think that's why I said I purposely used complete streets as my term. Hopefully to encompass all of that. But the nice thing that's going to happen in 2 weeks, and I'm going to encourage the mayor to take charge of it. We just want to listen, and we want it to be a respectful environment where everybody gets their opportunity to speak, and we will listen and just accept the information and put it all together. We want it to be a safe spot where everybody can give their bid.
It's just the language we use. I think sometimes we're more worried about the efficiency of cars than we are about sustainable living for people. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ogden, and we'll have to rely on your voice for that for sure when we go through the exercise. Okay, so it's just a receipt. Wait, I have a hand up, but I can't see the person.
That was me.
Oh, that was you.
CFO Fudge wants to correct something I said.
Oh, CFO Fudge, over to you.
Through your worship, absolutely not. I actually want to reinforce what Councillor Sullivan said. Actually, this is really just want to add one other point. You know, last year we heard council loud and clear. There was some frustration at the council level because the budget does go to the council in November after it's been reviewed by the finance committee, and I think we heard last year an expression of council wanting to provide some input into that process earlier than waiting until November when the finance committee gets tax base and has an opportunity to review and provide recommendations. So this really is also, in addition to all the points that Councillor Sullivan made, this will give council the opportunity to provide us that input. You will be receiving an email with links with all the current plans. There won't be, it'll be based on the current plans we have, so there won't be additional information provided because it's all we have as of now. But really the intent is for us to do a bunch of listening next week, and for that information that we receive from council to be considered by the finance committee when they actually start the review in mid-October. And we should have our tax base information, I believe, probably third week of October is when I'm expecting tax base to come out, either third week or last week of October. So it should line up nicely with respect to timing. Thank you.
Thank you, CFO Fudge. Okay, so the motion's on the floor to receive for information. I have another hand up. Okay, it's gone. On the question, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Next item, City Clerk.
Next, Your Worship, is item 15.1, and that's a letter from a citizen regarding homelessness. We have a staff recommendation to direct the mayor to forward the letter to the appropriate provincial department.
Deputy, move it. I need a seconder on it. Councillor Hickey on the question. All in favor? Opposed? Yes, Councillor.
If I could, I would just quickly say to that one to respond to the person who wrote it. St. Vincent's was sold privately. It is in private hands now, and they're waiting on hopefully some redevelopment for the area. Very exciting. Lots of stuff happening in Waterloo Village.
Thank you. All right, so we had the motion, all in favor, and then contrary. There's no one contrary. Councillor Ogden?
Yeah, I've gotten a lot of emails recently about homelessness, and as we all do. And I really think that we've got to explain to people, it starts with disposable income, which goes back 40 some years. Like, people are really, really upset about homelessness and the cost of everything, but it comes down to the amount of disposable income that many, many people have lost, and it's been over 40 years.
Councillor, your mic is off.
Sorry, I've gotten a lot of calls and emails about homelessness.
Yeah, we heard that part.
Yeah, so I just want people to really, really realize that this has been going on for 40 some years, and to solve it overnight, I know people are annoyed with the tent cities and everything, but it starts with disposable income, and that's really where it starts. And people just have less disposable income today than they have 40 years ago. So it didn't happen overnight.
No, that's true.
And when David said about St. Vincent's, I probably put 2 gallons of paint on St. Vincent's taking off graffiti with a lot of F words and everything. So that's really good news. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Okay, City Clerk, next item.
Okay, next we have a few items that came from Committee of the Whole. The first one is 17.1, and this is with regard to CMHC Rapid Housing Contribution Agreement. And there's a proposed resolution that reads as follows, that the July 21st, 2023 resolution of council relating to CMHC Rapid Housing Contribution Agreement be amended by deleting paragraph 2, the resolution, and replacing it with the following. Subject to the city receiving consent from CMHC for the registering of the necessary mortgages against the project lands and subject to the terms of the provincial funding for the project matching those of CMHC funding, including the 40-year affordability period for the project, that the City of St. John enter into a contribution agreement with Kaleidoscope Social Media for a project located at... just one moment, Your Worship. I apologize. I had the wrong motion at my fingertips. So just one moment and I will revise that.
Your worship, do we need a motion to extend past 10 o'clock?
Yes, actually, we do.
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Harris. And
Sorry, do you
Councillor
have-
Sullivan, I don't think I've ever seen you vote for that in my life, Councillor Sullivan.
On
On the question?
This?
On the question?
I don't
All
know
in favor?
how that got mixed up. Thank you, ma'am.
I asked her to.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Your worship, my apology for the mix-up. So the motion reads as follows. So it's CMHC Rapid Housing Initiative Contribution Agreement, and that the city waive conditions precedent 9.1C related to the cost overrun mitigation plan and 9.1I and the contribution agreement between the city and Kaleidoscope Social Impact, Inc., dated September 13, 2023, and flow $900,000 in funding to Kaleidoscope upon all other conditions precedent having been met, as partial payment for the first milestone payment defined in Schedule C to said agreement, and the remainder of the said first milestone payment be paid when all conditions precedent listed in Section 9.1 have been met.
Okay, so I need a mover, the deputy, and Councillor Norton on the question. All in favor? Opposed? Nobody opposed? Motion carried. Next item, City Clerk.
Next item is with respect to a commercial transaction legal retainer, item 17.2. And the council resolution would be that the city retain Tories LLP for expert service in a commercial transaction in accordance with the statement of work and estimate presented to Committee of the Whole at its meeting held on October 3, 2023 for the said transaction.
Okay. Councillor Norton and the Councillor Stewart on the question. All in favor? Opposed? Councillor Harris opposed. Anyone else? I just see one. Okay. Next item, City Clerk.
The final item was with respect to code of conduct, and the resolution would be that on the recommendation of the Committee of the Whole and pending the outcome of an investigation under the Code of Conduct bylaw, Councillors Killen and Harris be relieved of all their council committee duties and their appointments by council to different bodies be rescinded effective immediately.
Okay, I'll take a mover and a seconder on that. The deputy. What, I second Councillor Sullivan on the question. All in favor?
I'm sorry, Mayor. Point of order. I'm sorry. I don't know how Councillor Harris has not declared a conflict.
That's fine. It's done.
There's also a concern about the person who's filed the code of conduct who hasn't declared a conflict in this as well. So
That's fine. We're done that. So that motion passes, and I'll take a motion to adjourn. Councillor Lowe, where are you? There you are. I'll take a seconder. Councillor Stewart on the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, team, back to closed.